We have been betrayed. I, Chorus of the Kingdom of Elytria, may be the only person alive who can relate the heinous events of the past few hours. Though I have seen many horrors in our struggle against the Sha'ahoul, nothing has prepared me for this. These vicious tribesmen who swept out of the eastern steppes and now occupy half the frontier kingdom of Ovoron have exceeded the worst I would have thought possible of them. From within the safety of the Citadel of Avalon, we have watched the enemy strengthen their siege upon us, and we have felt the cruel blows of hunger wear us down. In desperation, a raid against the Sha'ahoul supply camp was planned. We rode out, bolstered by the chance to finally perform some action besides waiting. We all felt that this could be a turning point in the siege for us, and we may have been right. However, it wasn't the turn we had so strongly hoped for. Indeed, it may be the end for the forces gathered at Avalon. Though I can hardly believe it, General Ovoron has led us into a trap. Only the intuition which led me to follow the general and his escorts as they veered away from the main group has saved me from the horrible fate of my fellow brothers in arms. From what I can see of the battlefield, I may be the only loyal Avalonian who yet draws breath here. I know our war with the Sha'ahoul clansmen has been going against us for some time, but I did not imagine that any of our leaders had become desperate enough to defect. Now that we have lost over a third of our forces in this act of tragedy, we will be hard-pressed to prevent the enemy hordes from at last storming the gates of Avalon. Unless I can bring word of Ovoron's betrayal to our high commanders, all those in Avalon may be facing certain extinction. Ironically, my own commitment to the defense of Avalon has recently strengthened, as I now have family there. My younger brother has just arrived, on the only ship to survive the Sha'ahoul's blockade of the Boil River. Though it pained me to leave him even as he arrived, I can now take solace in knowing he is safe and that he will no doubt carry on the fight if I do not make it back. With this knowledge to strengthen me, I will now try and get closer to Ovoron's position to gather all the information I can before attempting my return. May the good spirits guide and protect me. How could General Ovoron betray everything we hold dear to turn his back on our cause and align himself with Mithras of all people? I find myself in the shell of this ruined house, its crumbling walls offering a brief refuge from the massacre that unfolded mere moments ago. The stench of blood and charred flesh hangs heavy in the air, grim reminders of the shaman's fire magic and the melee carnage that ensued. I can feel the faint thrum of power within me, the ability to summon a modest fireball or call upon a healing spell if my wounds grow dire. These are tools I have come to rely on, though they pale beside the raw skill I've honed in the relentless months of combat. My strikes are now swift, precise, unyielding. Battle has hardened me in ways I never imagined. For now, I remain unscathed. My body is ready, my mind sharp, and my stamina holds strong. I check my inventory. The longsword is broken, useless now. My armor and shield, however, are still intact, reliable as ever. As an experienced knight, my fine armor will protect me, and my thick cloak shields me from the cold. The village lies in ruins around me, a broken landscape of ash and rubble. As I step outside, a Sha'ahoul prowls nearby, hunting for survivors. My broken sword proves enough to dispatch him swiftly. The battlefield around me is a grim sight, bodies strewn everywhere, the stench of death thick in the air. Ahead, I spot an owl poised to kill a wounded comrade. I can't let that happen. The beast is strong, stronger than me, but I wear him down. When the moment is right, I finish him off with a fireball.
Oh,
Can you hear me, soldier?
it's good to know. Some of us have survived.
Have you seen any other survivors?
You're the first, aside from myself, that I've seen to have survived the ambush. As you are in much better shape than myself, you must carry word of this disaster to our commanders.
I can't just leave you to die.
You've no choice. Someone must report what has happened here. Don't try to return by way of East Gate, though. That route is well guarded, and I earned most of my wounds trying to return that way. The ruins of the village might provide a safer route for you. You might want to find a better weapon before you go, though. Likely, that sword is little better than useless. I saw a Sha'ahoul carrying off a number of weapons to the south earlier. You should be able to acquire some better weapons from him. Please, Corvus, go while you still can.
I feel it wrong to leave a comrade in battle, but you are right. Someone must return to Avalon to warn of the treachery that now threatens us. You are brave, Maxim, and I will not let your memory be forgotten. Farewell. Another Ovoron. Looks like I'm not done here yet. Wait, another ally? Sorvalos.
Horus, is that you?
Sorvalos, you are grievously wounded, sir. Please let me assist you.
Ally, brother warrior, I'm not long for this world, I'm afraid. Yes, soon I shall be delayed, Sir Valus. Very soon, thanks to some of the nasty scratches those painted devils gave me.
The Sha'ahoul are not the only ones to blame for this tragedy. One of our own betrayed us.
Betrayed? What do you mean, lad? I cannot believe one of our own would lead us into such a massacre.
I found it hard to believe it myself, sir, but I saw General Ovoron and the evil Mithras together with my own eyes.
This is a hard thing for me to hear, for I have served under General Ovoron many times. However, this war has strained many past their breaking points. If this is so, and he is a traitor, then you must return to Avalon with this news immediately.
I will bind your wounds, sir, and we shall return together.
There's no chance for me, Corvus. My wounds are too many and too deep. No, I would only slow you down. You must go quickly, for Avalon must know of Ovoron's treachery. Do not worry about me, for I have lived a long life and I do not fear death. I have lived and fought honorably, so I can see the afterlife as a well-earned rest for this old soldier, so long as I can hold my ancestral sword. My sword? Those corpse-robbing savages must have taken it, thinking me already dead. Corvus, I know you must return to Avalon. The future of the fortress may depend on it. In light of such an emergency, I cannot make a personal request. yet.
You wish me to find your sword for you?
It is one of the oldest traditions of my family. A warrior of our line who has been honored with carrying our ancestral sword must not lose it. To die without it would mean a death without honor for me. As a fellow warrior, I make this final request to you. If you are at all able, please return my sword to me before I die.
To ignore a dying brothers-in-arms' last request would be honorless of me. I will do all I can to return your sword to you, brave Wallace.
May the good spirits speed you safely inside Avalon's walls.
May they guide you to your final rest with ease, Sir Wallace. Farewell. Maxim mentioned a sword to the south, worth investigating. Sir Wallace's sword is also a priority. Leaving it behind would dishonor him. To the south lies the Sha'ahoul camp, past thick trees. General Ovoron and Mithras once walked this path deeper into enemy territory. The Ovorons try to ambush me. Thankfully they are weak to swords. This must be the supply camp Maxim mentioned. 2 Sha'ahouls guard it. I'll wear them down with firewall, then finish them with my broken sword. A barrel, and inside an officer's sword. With this weapon, my ability in melee combat should be restored, just as it was before the ambush. This Sha'ahoul must have heard the sounds of my fight with the camp guards. I'd better silence him before he alerts his comrades. More horror worms. I'm surprised the Sha'ahouls don't kill these foul creatures themselves. To the north, I cannot pass. It would take me into concentrated pockets of the enemy army. It would be foolish to go that way. More Sha'ahoul. It seems my presence is known throughout the entire camp now. Even though I am wounded, this healing spell proves to be invaluable, swiftly closing the wound and easing the pain. Crocopods are nasty little creatures no bigger than dogs. They're quick and relentless, but fragile if struck properly. The Sha'ahoul have now dispatched their war dogs. It seems they are searching for me, likely aware of my presence in their camp. I'm alone here and they'll stop at nothing to track me down. This Sha'ahoul looks tougher than the others. I can't afford to let him get too close. That was too close. I managed to heal myself, but this foe seems unfazed, despite my strikes landing. I was beginning to wonder if that would be the last I ever saw of this world. This sword, Sir Valos' sword, it matches his description perfectly. The craftsmanship is unmistakable, crafted by a true master smith. I must take it back to him, no matter the cost. Indeed, this sword is the finest I've ever held in my hands.
Have you found my sword, Corvus?
I have, Valos. Here it is.
You have my eternal thanks, Corvus. Oh. Before I leave this world, though, please accept this small token of my appreciation. This ring, a trophy from the early days of this world, should help keep you safe. It has been a lucky charm for me throughout this campaign. I hope it serves you well.
Thank you, Sir Valos, and may the good spirits ease you into the afterlife. Farewell, Sir Knight. This ring seems to be magically enchanted. The moment I wear it, I feel reinvigorated, as if my strength and vitality have been restored. Very well. I've done what I needed to do. Maxim said I must head west if I hope to survive this gauntlet. It seems the enemy is fully aware of my presence now. Their scouts are everywhere, watching my every move. The enemy camp is here. I'm not sure how, but I've managed to survive this onslaught through sheer wit and will. Though I was close to death, this ring was what saved my life. That seems to be it. The road to the west where the villages are is now clear. I'd better move quickly before reinforcements arrive. Little brother, I wish I could say that I am glad you are here, but a besieged keep is something no one should have to endure. However, it is good to see you again. How are mother and father?
What game was that? This was the unreleased demo of the best action RPG of all time. I don't want slop.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
Yeah, and it's spying on me all day. Thanks for that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Siege of Avalon, developed by Digital Tome and released in the year 2000. Digital Tome, a small studio of dreamers, wanted to challenge giants like BioWare and Blizzard with their narrative-driven approach, and they weren't afraid to experiment. Why did I decide to review Siege of Avalon? For me, it started back in 2001, when I got my hands on a demo CD containing the first 2 chapters of the game. That CD also included another title, Der Schuh des Manitou, a game adaptation of a German movie. But it was Siege of Avalon that captivated me. While it wasn't my first RPG experience, I had already enjoyed Pokémon Red on the Game Boy and Super Mario RPG on the SNES. It quickly became something special. What drew me in was how Siege of Avalon invited me to think differently. I loved the inventory system, which was simple yet rewarding, and the way the game encouraged me to listen carefully to other characters, interpret the words, and make my own decisions. It didn't hold my hand, and that made success feel earned. The combat wasn't the flashiest, it leaned toward the static side, but where it truly shone was in its progression. Starting off with weak equipment and minimal strength, I felt a sense of growth as I leveled up, acquired better gear, and eventually overcame waves of enemies that once seemed impossible. What truly set the game apart for me, though, was its atmosphere. The siege itself wasn't just a narrative backdrop, it was a living, breathing conflict. As the siege progressed, the world around me reacted to my actions, and I felt a genuine connection to the story. It was as if my achievements were woven into the fabric of the game's world. Sometime later, a friend discovered the collector's edition, allowing me to finally experience all 6 chapters. Getting to complete the entire story was a moment I'll never forget, solidifying Siege of Avalon as one of my all-time favorites. Played any good books lately? That was the tagline of this game, reflecting the game's focus on narrative depth. Enter Siege of Avalon, a game released in 6 episodic formats, each one aiming to combine role-playing depth, tactical combat, and a heavy dose of medieval melodrama. Did it work? Well, that depends on your tolerance for pixelated knights and stiff combat animation, so buckle up, because we're diving into Siege of Avalon, chapter by chapter, to see if this forgotten RPG classic still deserves a seat at the round table. Now, as I've mentioned, the game is split into 6 chapters. Initially, the game wasn't sold with all 6 chapters included, up until the Anthology edition, which contained all 6 chapters. You had to buy the chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 separately, which was back then called in an episodic format. Episodic. Get it? These guys were introducing DLCs before the great Lord Todd. You know, back when he came along with the Horse Armor DLC, the first chapter of the game was available to download for free. Sadly, I do not know what the original price of each chapter was, since the company went defunct and the original website has been shut down. If you check out eBay, the price range for the Anthology, you know, released as the collector's edition in Europe, it's somewhere between 10 to 20 euros. The original release had a fixed 800 by 600 pixel resolution. The game was officially released in July 19th, 2000. See system requirements. Now, while this game originally released in the year 2000 and I still have the original disc, I feel we should turn our attention to the Steam release, which was published in the year 2021, also available on GOG.com. The main difference between the 2000 release and the 2021 release is that we can play on full HD resolution, a few bug fixes, and with the UI updated for modern HD monitors, working on Windows 7 and upwards, according to the official system requirements. As a nice bonus, the publisher's snack included some artwork from the early development. Initially, I was debating with myself whether to review the game in the original version or the re-release one. Yeah, perhaps it's time to move on. While reviewing this game in the re-release version kills some of the nostalgia, I feel the review as a whole benefits from the full HD resolution. In a way, this feels like cheating because with the bigger resolution you see more of the map, which kinda makes walking through enemy territory a bit easier because of your improved map awareness. Resolution and bug fixes aside, the re-release is faithful to the original game, so I think it is justified to stick with the modern version of the game. Before we start the game itself, I want to show you the data structure of the game. Like with many other old games, there are a lot of loose files which can be read or viewed in plain text. The artwork I mentioned from the re-release, ranging from the knights to liches. These sketches set the tone and the character designs. I'll let you take it in without further comment. The interface. This is what we see most of the time. From here, we can access our party members and their strategy, the player's equipment, the quest entries and journals, as well as our character stats. Once the player character has progressed a certain part of the story, a certain journal entry will be unlocked, which gives us further detailed explanation of what just happened, or just general lore comments from the perspective of the player character. Now, audio files are most of the time stored as .midi, which means we need a MIDI sound font to play it. In-game, the game engine relies on the Windows MIDI sound font itself, which means the MIDI playback component of Microsoft Windows will handle it, also known as MSGS Wavetable Synth. Now, for those who are younger than me may or may not know about MIDI files. These files are not music files like you know from MP3 or FLAC. These files simply contain instructions on which instrument is played at which time and duration. Sound fonts are generally used to play them on PC, but hardware MIDI synthesizers exist too, such as the Roland MT32. Grunt sounds are stored as WAV files, which can be easily played with any media player. Same applies to some of the music files, which are stored as MP3. Now, NPCs are separated and stored in so-called POX files. POX files contain the name of the NPCs, what model to use, the animation patterns, including directions. A lot, if not everything, in this game is a sprite, since it's not a 3D game with proper models like you would do in Blender. The character can walk in 8 directions: northwest, north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, and west. Conversations are stored in separate files with the ending CNV. These files can do more than just talk with the player. They can also give and receive items for the NPC and player, train the player new skills in return of training points. Training points are basically the currency of this game to improve player stats, as well as make them friendly or hostile, so the game engine really offers a lot to tinker with. Usually you receive TP by completing quests or by killing enemies. All items in the game are stored in the items.db database file. For example, item name, value, damage output, damage type, armor value, lore, etc. are all stored here. When a character wears an item, it also needs to be attached to a slot. For example, tunics are usually placed on chest 1 or 2 slot, pants on leg 1 or 2, boots on the feet slot, chest plates on chest 2 or 3 slot, shoulder pads in chest 3 or outer, knee pads on leg 2, tabards, cloaks and capes on outer, vambraces on arm, gloves on gauntlet, sword on weapon, shield on shield slot. Arrows and kilts are held in the belt slot. Rings, books, and whatever else could be counted as miscellaneous are placed here. Helmets and hats go to the head slot. On the top left is shown how much money you have. Crowns, or Kronen in German, are the currency's name of the game. Right now on the picture you see that I have 7,173 crowns. Crowns are earned mostly by killing enemies, looting their belongings, and sell them to merchants. Also, the database dictates which sprite and in-game model is used for the respective item. This item maker, which the developer used, creates items with the properties desired. Item list shows the entire database with the registered items. General tab for stuff like value and lore text. Sound for the sounds. Valid slots for which slots can be used for this item. Damage profile for how much damage and what type of damage this item does when it hits the target. Damage resist for what type of damage is resisted when the character is hit and how much. Stat modifiers to give buffs and debuffs. Image parts for in-game sprites and inventory screen image. Maps are stored as level and the accompanying zip files. Each map of the game is laid out here. The map files contain, well, the map. Which NPC is placed where, which object is placed where. You can also set the day and night cycle here. The tool to edit these maps is Chapted, which the developers use to, well, create maps. This piece of software is quite versatile. You can even make NPCs appear or disappear by triggering certain events. I have to admit, I am not that great with this software. The standard font primarily used in this game is called Black Chancery. While I personally like it, there are people who do not. Get used to it, because in this game, you will read a lot. Let's talk about the structure of the game and thus the video. In order to play the game from start to finish, you don't need to buy all the chapters. Chapter 1, which contains the intro and Rescue Your Brother arc, contains most of the crucial assets, including the Outer Keep as well as the first 4 village maps. Chapter 2 introduces the rest of the Citadel and the caves and the crypts beneath. As for the rest of the chapters, it goes as follows. Chapter 3 introduces the forests and has a special mission for all those who chose the Fighters class, which will transform the player character into a proper knight. Chapter 4 introduces the rest of the village maps, where the enemy has their base of operation and camps. This is, at least from the perspective of the lore, the most dangerous one, since the enemy is numerous and you are all alone. Those who chose the scout class will have to rely on their stealth skill in order to get a nice boost in stealth and get a fancy ring of speed. Chapter 5 introduces the astral plane and the planes that can be accessed from this nexus. In order to become a full mage, you have to prove your worth and travel between realms, and you get one of the fanciest set of clothes in the game, Mage Armor. Chapter 6 brings in the grand finale where the siege comes to a conclusion. Starting up the game brings up this launcher. Let's check out the intro cinematic, which starts playing every single time you start the game. Begin video prompt in 3, 2, 1.
Yes. This is the tale you seek.
A mysterious old man grabs a book and begins to tell a story to, what I assume, some curious visitor. Who this old man is unknown, and whoever is visiting him clearly is aware of what kind of story he wants to hear. Once the book opens, our story begins. And this is the main menu. Before we start the new game, let us look at the prologue of the story. To summarize, the story revolves around the tragic consequences of a small farming settlement's cooking fire on the far edges of the Western Kingdoms, which revealed its location to the nomadic Sha'ahoul, igniting a brutal series of events. The Sha'ahoul, seeing the settlers' farming as an affront to their beliefs about balance and nature, razed the village, sparking a massive invasion of Oriam and the surrounding kingdoms. Despite the formation of a coalition and the construction of a mighty citadel named Avalon, this coalition of 7 kingdoms suffered devastating losses while managing to push back the invaders for a time. However, internal strife in the Tableland kingdom and the resurgence of the Sha'ahoul led to renewed conflict, culminating in a protracted siege of Avalon that has left the fate of both sides hanging in the balance. The siege has been going on for 8 months where the game starts. These Western European-styled kingdoms were once a giant empire called Fans, or Tans, I don't know. But after an unknown event, it collapsed into these 7 realms. These are the following. Oriam. In the shadow of the vast, unyielding steppe lies Oriam, the easternmost of the 7 kingdoms. Its land is one of quiet endurance, home to simple farmers who toil beneath the endless sky. Life here may be humble, but the people of Oriam are as steady and resilient as the earth they till. Kafia, a realm of rolling plains and wandering herds. Kafia thrives in its own quiet rhythm. Its people, expert herders, are deeply connected to their land. Though wealth may elude them, their songs and stories carry the heartbeat of their pastoral existence across the windswept expanse. Elifria. The clang of hammers and the gleam of steel define Elithria, the land of blacksmiths and knights. From its forges come legendary weapons, and its chivalric orders are renowned across the kingdoms. Strength and honor walk hand in hand here, as unyielding as the metal they shape. Aratoi. Deep within ancient forests lies Aratoi, a kingdom where power bends not to a king, but to the wisdom of the clan mother. The bow is an extension of the soul for the skilled archers who call this place home. Their king acts as a bridge to the outside world, but within the green shadows of their woods, the clans hold sway, whispering to the spirits of the trees. Tableland. Wealth and might are the hallmarks of Tableland. Its treasuries gleam with gold, and its knights, clad in heavy armor, ride into battle as an unstoppable tide of steel. The kingdom's heavy cavalry is unmatched, its banners a symbol of both power and pride across the 7 kingdoms. While recently shaken by a civil war, they no doubt are capable of stopping the enemy forces. Nissos. Where the waves kiss the shore, the people of Nissos thrive. Born with salt in their veins and a gambler's spark in their hearts, they are skilled seafarers and daring traders. The harbors of Nissos hum with activity, while its dice and card tables hum with risk, reward, and the stories of fortunes made and lost. Fornax, shrouded in mystery. Fornax is a land both feared and respected. Its people are secretive, their gift for magic an awe-inspiring birthright. Every Fornaxian is said to possess a spark of arcane talent, and their mages are unmatched. Rumors find little purchase in this enigmatic land, where silence often speaks louder than words. As for the religion of these 7 kingdoms, it is displayed in-game that they use the Christian cross in their chapels. Sometimes they speak of, "May the good spirits be with you," but that is all I could extract. Not much is known who or what they really worship, but I can imagine the developers directly assigned Christianity as their faith, or something fictional with a lot of Christian elements to it. Now we take a look at the besiegers, the nomadic Sha'ahoul, a union of 2 races with a unique backstory from the vast steppes of the east. At the top are the Shaman, an elite caste of highly intelligent mages specializing in elemental magic. They rival and possibly surpass the mages of Fornax and are known for their facial tattoos which signify their arcane mastery. The Sha'ahoul, in contrast, are orc-like humanoids known for their strength and resilience. They excel in melee combat, and according to them, their scouts are also skilled marksmen, crafting lighter and faster arrows than their western counterparts. Their skin tones range from green to beige, and over time they intermingled with the Shaman, forming the Sha'ahoul, a hybrid race combining intelligence and physical strength. If I had to guess culturally, the Sha'ahoul draw clear inspiration from nomadic civilizations such as Huns, Scythians, Mongols, and Turkic nomads. They are expert archers, live in tents, and are guided by shamans in matters of religion, culture, and war. Their beliefs blend Zoroastrianism and paganism, worshipping a deity of cleansing fire, residing in the skies alongside a female counterpart. Unlike their Western counterparts, who speak of good spirits, the Sha'ahoul say, "Burn brightly." Despite their unique culture, they are seen as brutish and barbaric. As for their architecture, there is none except their tents, since they despise changing the earth. Despite being nomadic archers, not a single Sha'ahoul is seen riding a horse. I cannot spoil it for now, but there are horsemen in this game. My assumption is that they were added very late into the game, so they wouldn't be functional as enemies. Anyways, with the story clear, let's start the game. This is where you start to create your character. Here, you can select your class. Oh yeah, the classes. Many good old-school RPG used to have them. In the case of this game, you have a total of 3 classes to choose from. The Fighter. Fighter training places an emphasis on your character's combat ability. Your character gains 5 strength and 10 combat points. The Scout. Scout training emphasizes your character's stealth talents. Your character gains 10 stealth and 5 coordination points. The Mage. Magician training places an emphasis on your character's spellcasting ability. Your character gains 10 mysticism points and receives the charge spell. The fighter, the mage, the scout. The classic RPG triangle. Back to the customization. You can select your hairstyle, hair color, the colors of your basic clothing, and you can even choose to have a beard, which is a nice detail. Speaking of beards, you can be a female if you want. Only in the re-release version. My complaints are two things. First, I cannot have a bigger color variety when it comes to choosing your clothes colors. Secondly, I wish there were more options for hairstyles, as well as an animation style preset. What I mean by that is that the player character only attacks with weapons the same way over and 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 over again. By the way, the German version of the game uses a different animation for attacks. Begin video prompt in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think I made this point clear. To summarize, the English version relies on wide movement with the arm, while the German version uses vertical movements with the arm. As for casting spells, I mean, look at the fancy animation Mithras gets. I'll name my character Falco, since the brother of the player character is named Corvus, the Latin name for raven. Anyways, with my character finished, let's start the game. Upon starting the game, you will see the first few journal entries from the perspective of the player. To summarize, the protagonist, a young man, journeys up the Voile River aboard the battered ship Lady Ailey, navigating through hostile waters rife with danger. The ship, damaged by an ambush from the Sha'ahoul invaders, barely survives to reach the fortress of Avalon, the last bastion of hope for Oriam against the relentless enemy. Driven by a mix of duty and youthful idealism, the protagonist seeks his elder brother Corvus to deliver news of their father's death and to confirm if Corvus still lives. This mission, however, is as much about personal identity as it is about familial loyalty. The protagonist wrestles with his inner conflict between the boyish dreams of heroism and the grim realities of war and survival. Upon arriving in Avalon, the stark realities of the siege come into focus. Gaunt faces, scant supplies, and an air of desperation that hangs heavy over the fortress. Despite these hardships, the protagonist reunites with Corvus, who has become a respected figure in Avalon's defense. Corvus, battle-worn and weary, offers brief solace before being summoned to a council meeting, leaving the protagonist to prepare for their next steps in the war. It took several hours for Corvus to return. Falco, our protagonist, tells Corvus of the news that their father passed away 6 weeks ago. Corvus took the news better than Falco expected. Corvus's unit was selected to serve as outriders to protect the flank of Field Marshal Ovoron's field forces, a full third of the castle's men, as they intend to raid a nearby Sha'ahoul supply camp, located in the east. Yes, the game uses Field Marshal and General Ovoron interchangeably. I don't know. Corvus tells us that he needs to depart in order to take part of the raid. Falco can only do one thing aside of rotting in his room: take part in training and prove himself. Corvus used his status and managed to get a commission letter for Falco, so he can get a standard set of equipment for use. With the goal clear, I leave the room and I get interrupted by a mandatory cutscene. D-Man, a page residing in the outer keep, has the orders to tell me to report to Captain Avarus for training as soon as possible. I answer that I want to have a look around first. He advises not to linger for too long. Pages in general in the Citadel often relay messages and orders and mainly run errands for the nobles. Additionally, they give Falco directions should he get lost. It's time to get to know my neighbors. Falco decides to have a look at the officers' barracks first. Morale is poor among the soldiers and rumors run rampant throughout the ranks. Speaking of conversations, the developers took great care with how each advancement of the protagonist reflects the soldier's mood. Since we just started, you can see that the morale is, well, not good at all. Most of the people here have their own problems and struggles, and we may find a way to help them through mini-quests. Maybe. The conversations with the officers here reveal that Falco shows to others that he is indeed fresh and not accustomed to this prolonged war, and what it means to sit in a box made of stone while the enemy is outside, waiting to take them apart piece by piece. Speaking with the soldiers here, we now know their background and their motivations. Small stuff like this breathes life into the Citadel. On to the first mini-quest. A soldier called Madden tells us about a problem he has. His girlfriend sent him a letter and a rose, but both are now gone. He suspects some heartless person must have taken it. But why? Not far away from Madden we see a guy called Kent, who reveals that he is not convinced by some soldiers to see through the end of the siege, but also that he has taken a certain topic into his own hands. He is convinced that Madden's longing for his love distracts him from the realities of the siege, and that Avalon needs all their fighting men should they wish to survive. He has taken the letter and rose away and intends to give them back to Madden once King Vortigern arrives with his relief force. Now it is up to Falco to decide what to do. Spread across the entire Citadel, there are various chests and storages that can be opened. Some of them contain useful items for the player to take for a certain amount of time. Journal entries from the residents here reveal the happenings and what is going on inside their head. Dreams, ambitions, wishes, loss of their comrades, and so on. I like them. Soldiers, of course, are not the only inhabitants here. Chambermaids are usually assigned to clean up this place. Other maids are usually found in the kitchen or tend to the wounded. Adir here, for example, is one of them. Chambermaids have a reputation for gossiping, but that would mean trouble for her, so we leave her be. Winchell, the quartermaster, is responsible for equipping the soldiers here. Due to the shortage in materials, he gives us subpar equipment. Falco asks where he could find better equipment. Winchell suggests to ask Lucan at the armory in the south gate. A studded leather tunic and a common long sword. Nothing special, but it will have to do. For now, upon analyzing the sword, one may notice that it is grayed out. That is because Falco does not meet the requirement to use this sword in combat efficiently. Falco needs coordination skill 10, but he only has 9. Luckily for Falco, he can improve his stats by training. For example, one may approach a trainer to receive the respective lessons in order to improve. Gotta hit the gym soon, bro. We have our first weapon and a rather simplified set of armor. Now it's time to talk about the character stats. In short, the higher the number, the better. Some spells or items apply buffs or debuffs in their respective categories. On to the currency of the game that lets you improve your character, training points. You can spend these to improve whatever skill you wish to improve. The higher your level in, say, strength, you have to spend more and more points in order to reach the next level of it. While the skills have no hard limit in themselves, diminishing returns may be a concern after a certain point. Sadly, the enemies level up with you in a way, but I could not get an understanding of how much and to what extent. Skills are separated as primary and secondary skills. Primary skills are those that can be affected directly, while secondary skills are the result of one or multiple skills. Let's take a closer look at each skill to understand what it does and how it impacts the player character. Primary skills are your character's main traits. These skills determine your secondary skills, resistance modifiers, and damage modifiers. Training points are used to increase your primary skills. Strength represents the physical strength of a character. Strength affects how much damage a character inflicts in battle. Coordination represents how agile a character is. Coordination affects a character's movement, recovery, and resistance modifiers. Constitution represents a character's physical hardiness. Constitution affects a character's healing rate and hit points. Perception represents how well a character senses the area around him. Charm represents a character's personal magnetism. Charm affects the prices a character can command when buying or selling items. Mysticism represents a character's magical ability. Mysticism affects the character's recharge rate and mana. Combat represents a character's fighting ability. Combat affects the character's damage modifiers. Stealth represents the character's ability to move and avoid detection. Keep in mind, not all skills are necessarily relied upon in combat. Perception is very useful to unlock certain dialogue options, while Charm can support perception. See screenshot of a certain conversation. Secondary skills are derived directly from a character's primary skills. Hit points are derived from Constitution, for example. Attack represents a character's total to hit bonus. For whatever reason, it doesn't display the whole line here. Defense represents a character's ability to avoid being hit in combat. Light armor, such as leather, will have a higher defense than plate. Plate armor will absorb much more damage, however. Attack speed represents the time it takes a character to complete an attack. A low attack speed means your character attacks quickly. Restriction represents a character's encumbrance. A high restriction will negatively impact a character's ability to wield some weapons and cast spells. Movement represents a character's movement speed. Healing rate represents the speed at which a character regenerates health. Constitution affects a character's healing rate. Recharge rate represents the speed at which a character regenerates mana. Mysticism affects a character's recharge rate. Hit points represent a character's health. Constitution affects a character's hit points. Mana represents a character's store of mana. Mysticism affects a character's mana. Resistance represents how well a character defends against a particular type of attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's resistance modifiers. For each category, invincibility and resistance percentage are combined to get total resistance. The invincibility modifier represents how many points of damage of a particular type a character repels during an attack. The resistance modifier represents what percentage of damage of a particular type a character repels during an attack. The piercing resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a piercing attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's piercing resistance modifier. The crushing resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a crushing attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's crushing resistance modifier. The cutting resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a cutting attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's cutting resistance modifier. The heat resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a heat attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's heat resistance modifier. The cold resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a cold attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's cold resistance modifier. The electric resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a electric attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's electric resistance modifier. The magic resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a magic attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's magic resistance modifier. The stun resistance modifier represents how well a character defends against a stun attack. Skills, armor, spells, and magic items all affect the character's stun resistance modifier. Damage represents how much punishment a character delivers when attacking. Skills, weapons, spells, and magic items all affect the character's damage range. Each category has two numbers, representing the range of damage the character will deliver during an attack. Damage represents how much punishment a character delivers when attacking. Skills, weapons, spells, and magic items all affect the character's piercing, crushing, cutting, heat, cold, electric, magic, or stun attack. I'm aware that I repeated myself and stated the obvious, but I think it was necessary in order to get a full understanding of how the game works in terms of stats. On the right, you see that Falco, in his unarmed state, can deliver crushing damage ranging from 0 to 2 with his bare fists. Of course, when switching into combat mode, the stats change accordingly, since Falco now wields his sword in his hand. Oh yeah, the combat mode. You can enter it by pressing space. Press space again to enter the unarmed mode. As for the rest of hotkeys, please consult this handy chart from the help section of the main menu. Now we have an understanding of character stats and how hotkeys work, at least the most important ones. There is still the mini-quest with Madden's Rose. Since I played this game multiple times, I know exactly where it is. If you play it for the first time, you cannot fight off the urge of opening every chest out there, so it really isn't that hard. The rose and the letter, which is private, is in this chest. The rose has a nice charisma buff, which helps me getting better prices for buying and selling. This quest is, in my opinion, a smart move by the developer to encourage the player very early on to look out for every chest out there, as it might contain something useful. It's like the very first mushroom block in Super Mario Bros. On the NES at the first level. Falco decides to give the letter. Madden is of course happy that we got him the letter. As a sign of his gratitude, we are allowed to keep the rose. Kent, meanwhile, is aware that Madden got his rose back. He does not approve it, but he accepts it and still hopes that Madden is strong enough to carry on. Okay, boom, first quest done. So Falco got his weapon and has a basic understanding of how skills work. Lord Harold, an ambassador from the Kingdom of Tableland, is not amused by our visit, so we just leave him be. Falco goes to the southwestern room, which is larger, and Moodam, the master scout responsible for the training and deployment of scouts, introduces himself. He made a name for himself during the last few years in this war, and is willing to teach us about the basics of being a scout and how to move like one. I choose pathfinding as my first training in order to raise my coordination skill, which means I can handle my longsword properly. This has cost me 5 training points, which is fine, since in return I also get -1 restriction and +3 stealth. Okay, so what is restriction? It is not a skill, but rather a limit. The restriction stat plays a significant role in character and combat mechanics. It impacts attack speed, accuracy, defense, and mana costs, and also limits weapon and armor choices. High restriction can slow attack speed, a critical melee stat that allows players to stagger opponents and dominate combat. Effective management involves balancing gear and skills to minimize restriction while maximizing performance. Though essential, the stat's purpose is poorly explained in-game, leaving players to experiment. With the scout done, on to the magical stuff. In the northeastern section of the Outer Keep, the wizard Elarath and his apprentice Sherard reside here. Their task is to give advice on all things magical and experiment in order to potentially bolster the Citadel's defense. He is also willing to teach Falco the basics of magic. Elarath is due to his age forgetful and is one of the kinder people here in the keep. In order to sustain himself in serious situations, Falco decides to learn the heal spell. It might come in handy for a wannabe knight. As for training, I think that should be enough for now. Over time, Falco will be able to learn more spells later on. Especially in early game, you have the incentive to be cautious when it comes to distributing your training points. Not bad for a fresh squire, as our titles and awards are shown here. On the bottom of the interface, all available spells can be accessed. The stronger my mysticism skill, the more potent my magic will be. We are currently on the Outer Keep 2nd floor. Let us go to the 1st floor. This is the 1st floor. Before checking it out properly, let us go 1 floor lower, the basement. Now, the basement itself, while undeniably vast, doesn't hold anything particularly noteworthy or essential. There's a long, winding passageway that ultimately leads to a dead end cluttered with various items scattered about in no apparent order. Old, unused furniture is haphazardly stored here, including chairs and tables, covered in dust as if waiting for a time when they might be needed again. On the other side, we see a few soldiers and their bunk. They are not very optimistic about the current situation in the siege, just like the others. Their quiet conversations are tinged with doubt, and the occasional heavy sigh underscores their grim outlook on the situation. South of the soldier's bunk, the atmosphere grows heavier as we approach the prison cells. The rows of iron-barred enclosures stand silent and foreboding, their emptiness adding to the eerie stillness of the space. I wish the game would offer an option to torture or interrogate prisoners. How to get prisoners, traitors or POWs. Upon inspection, the soldier's bunk doesn't reveal anything of particular interest, except maybe this plain tabard. In short, the basement contains a few items that aren't really worth taking for Falco. The prison cells are empty, so there is no reason to stick here any longer. The 1st floor houses the chapel and the monks who mainly perform healing duties. On the left side of the building is the kitchen and the kitchen stuff, but more on that later. The chests here reveal the thoughts some of them have. Interestingly, one of them has the dream to abandon their life as monk and become a soldier to end this siege. It's small personal details like these that breathe life into the characters, making them feel more human amidst the grim reality surrounding them. Speaking of grim realities, time to check out the infirmary. The monks here work day and night, as you can see. The coughing of the sick and moaning of the wounded dominate the room. Apart from the monks, we come across Belinda, a caretaker devoted to tending to the wounded and sick. She immediately recognizes Falco, identifying him as Lieutenant Corvus's brother, though her tone suggests a mix of respect and concern. Belinda mentions that supplies are running dangerously low, hinting that there might be something we can do to help alleviate the situation. Sadly, she is not Lady Fanservice, so Falco leaves her be. Finger weg von der alten Dame. The monks here look overworked and concerned, but resilient. Brother Curly is busy with the wounded here, but it seems Brother Mo has something important to ask. If you were thinking that this might lead to another quest, you are right. Brother Mo is urgently seeking help due to a fever rapidly spreading through the infirmary in Avalon. The situation is dire because the medical supplies, particularly the herbs needed to brew a tea that could alleviate the symptoms, are running critically low. The infirmary has no more of the necessary herb, which was once grown in an orchard near the village, now overrun with wild plants. Mo is unable to send monks to gather the herbs, as they are needed for other duties. He seeks someone capable of venturing outside the walls to find and gather the required plant, which has distinct red petals, green leaves, and a musty smell. Brother Crosby, the leader of the monks, plays a supportive role in the game by offering instant healing for Falco's wounds whenever necessary. His inclusion seems to serve as a backup option for players who might forget to learn or use the healing spell. This ensures that the game remains accessible and forgiving, providing an easy way to heal without waiting an eternity to heal by waiting, especially in early game. Essentially, Brother Crosby is there to smooth out any potential difficulties, ensuring players aren't left in a tough spot if they overlook some of the game's mechanics. Friar Massus used to perform his duties in the church in the village just outside of Avalon, now tends to the chapel and helps out soldiers in these tough times when their faith wavers. The main hall, notably decorated with the banners of the Seven Kingdoms, is long and leads to the outer bailey. Also, 2 guards patrol here. The door on the northern side, which leads to the inner bailey, cannot be accessed yet. On the left, a large dining hall and the kitchen is visible. Due to the shortage in foodstuffs, it may look empty, but work still needs to be done. Guard Davet, or Dave, and Guard Alain are hanging out here, and there is a rumor that something shady is going on in the cellar beneath. I should talk to Bonnie for more information about this. Before someone jumps at me for Five Nights at Freddy's references, Bonnie. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the fan service girl of this game. She's got the looks, the personality, and definitely the potential to spark some romantic interest. I'm talking about the kind that might normally have explicit fan art flooding the internet. You know, the kind that you'd usually find plastered all over places like Gelboru, but nope, not this time. It's like the internet collectively took a vow of celibacy for this character, and I have no idea why. So maybe that's a win for decency or a tragic loss for fan artists everywhere. Who knows? Back to the story. Falco meets Bonnie, an assistant to Anora, who shares her frustrations about the harsh conditions in the Citadel. Despite the severe food shortages, Bonnie finds herself tirelessly cleaning tables after soldiers grab whatever scraps they can. When Falco inquires about recent news in the kitchens, Bonnie tells a chilling story of a shadowy figure she encountered in the cellar, what she believed to be a shade, a deadly creature capable of killing with a glance. Her story is met with skepticism from Anora and Dave, who laugh off her fears. However, Falco listens intently and reassures Bonnie that her concerns are valid. In a display of empathy, Falco promises to investigate the cellar and get to the bottom of the mystery. Bonnie advises Falco to speak to Anora first for permission to enter, warning him to be careful in case there's some truth to her terrifying experience. Into the kitchen we go. Anora and her maidens run things tight here. No extra food. Due to the rationing, Anora confirms there's a problem with grain being eaten, likely by creatures she suspects are rats. While Bonnie suggests a supernatural cause, Anora is skeptical but desperate for a solution. Falco can offer to investigate, receiving a quest to eliminate the pests and protect the keep's dwindling supplies. Anora's backstory adds another layer of poignancy. Her loss of a home and husband is a microcosm of the devastation wrought by the Sha'ahoul invasion. Her transformation from an innkeeper to the mistress of the kitchen reflects the forced adaptation of civilians during wartime. Before Falco investigates the kitchen cellar, why not take a look at the rest of the Citadel? We still have the task to go to the Outer Bailey, reporting to Captain Averus. Also, we still need to ask Lucan for proper equipment at the South Gate. The Outer Bailey is the place where merchants deal and soldiers train. The Outer Bailey connects the Outer Keep and the South Gate. Penrith, overseeing the Outer Bailey, recognizes Falco and greets him, noting his resemblance to his brother, Corvus. Penrith explains that he and Corvus served together, with Corvus once saving his life during a night attack by shielding him from a deadly fire blast, sustaining burns in the process. Penrith asks Falco to convey his regards to Corvus, expressing gratitude and camaraderie. Wilfrid, a tanner and leather goods merchant, introduces himself and offers his wares. To put it in a nice way, a tanner's shop stinks. The state of the siege is made clear by the goods these merchants sell. Steel is very rare and whatever is left is being sold for more than they are actually worth. Merchants aside, the Outer Bailey also houses some of the horses, or to be more precise, what is left of the horses. Only a handful are left, mainly from the commanders of the Citadel. Horses, while crucial, could end up becoming food if the inhabitants here have nothing else to eat. Speaking of good-looking horses, Falco isn't the only one watching these graceful creatures. A red-haired woman curtly asks to be left alone. If approached again, she apologizes for her earlier tone, but firmly reiterates her desire for solitude, specifying it's not personal. A groom mentions tending to the officers' horses, noting that riding them is becoming rare. On the northeastern part of the Outer Bailey, a stench comes over. Falco is not allowed to go beyond this point, for the peasants' bailey lies beyond these walls. Some sort of disease is spreading there, and in order to prevent any outbreak, they are under bad conditions and isolation from the Citadel. Without fresh supplies or reinforcements, it is becoming clear that the fortitude of Avalon's defenders may not withstand the unyielding grip of starvation and disease. If aid does not arrive soon, the fate of Avalon seems grim indeed. In the eastern part, a few merchants peddle their goods. Gal with fine clothing, Laran the linguist, and Olon the quick with his unique services. Unique. Olon greets Falco and introduces himself as a former rogue from Nissos, known for his skills in sleight of hand and related activities, which he admits were often more criminal than noble. He explains that although he once lived as a thief, the current scarcity of resources has led him to become a simple merchant instead. Ovoron emphasizes that even though there's little market for goods, information and favors still hold value, and he would appreciate hearing any useful gossip Falco may come across. On to tangible goods. Gull, a merchant, calls Falco over to check out his fine goods. If Falco mentions being interested in buying, Gull offers a chance to browse his wares, though Falco can also choose to walk away. If Falco implies he can't afford anything, Gull dismisses it, but suggests he can sell items that he no longer needs in exchange for something useful. Same story here. Fancy stuff, but no proper armor. Not even a rusty chainmail. Tomic, one of the guards posted here, warns Falco about the dangers ahead at the south gate. Falco can ask about rumors, learning of the desperate situation in the peasants' bailey, where death and starvation are taking their toll. I never understood why people here were so scared of the south gate so much. Yes, it is the last thing that stands between you and the enemy, but so far it has withstood the enemy just fine. Well, maybe it's the pressure and the stress on the job. Looking south, only this gate of iron bars separate Falco and the barbarians outside. Mainly the armory and the smaller dining hall is to be found here. Fun fact, no matter which gate you go through, both the gate leading to the village as well as the one that leads to the outer bailey open at the same time. Talk about security flaw. Allow me to introduce my buddy, Mr. Game Saved here. Mr. Game Saved will ensure that he appears every time I save my progress.
Game saved.
Moving on, this is the south gate, which has 3 floors, but only 2 can be accessed. For now. The stairs leading downstairs caught Falco's attention, but going down is forbidden as the guards Netzi and Kelemen, both Hungarian names by the way, firmly tell him to get lost. Grimbold and Lang hang around here as well. There are complaints of unsettling noises coming from the basement, causing sleepless nights among the defenders. The scratching sounds are suspected to be either giant rats or something more ominous. Lucan at the armory is found in the southwest side of the south gate. He is tasked with supplying and training defenders, but his inventory is bare, victim to the critical steel shortage and General Ovoron's requisitions for a raid. While he can offer you a shield, weapons are another story, setting you off on a quest to uncover the truth behind the missing steel. Lucan doesn't just hand out equipment, he also provides valuable combat training, offering skills like combat breathing and armor fitting to improve your chances in battle. Lucan tells Falco to talk with Freeman, the blacksmith in the outer bailey. He might know what is going on. The current situation makes it clear that Falco must do with whatever he got so far. Supplies are low, and considering how isolated Avalon is, this is unlikely to change. Hone, another soldier who resides here, complains about the strange sounds beneath as well. He suggests that the general send a few cats over to solve the problem. Kane asks Falco for tobacco, but there is none with Falco. No matter which part of the Citadel you are, supplies run low and people are desperate and start begging. Arno complains about the noises too. One thing is for sure, Falco needs to find a way downstairs and investigate the happenings and whatever causes these loud sounds. While we could finally attend training, let us check out the second floor first. This is where the lookout glue their eyes on the village. Lots of beds and furnitures that contain a whole lot of nothingness, almost as if people are badly equipped for the tasks ahead. Sir Felot, who operates the gate leading to the outer bailey, acts a bit suspicious, but there isn't anything to find out about it. Soren and Palben seem to operate the gate leading to the village outside. It is also implied that they can see far into the village from here. While not shown, I assume they have some sort of window or door to look out from. Calum, who oversees the South Gate, is a hardened veteran, born in Kafia and stationed here. The pressure is on him to run things smoothly here. Pelan and Muslin block the entrance that leads to the third floor of the gate. It is off limits for now. They seem to be awfully nice to the player in my opinion. Elazar, not to be confused with Elarath from the Outer Keep, is a wizard and seer from Fornax who wishes to be left alone for now. They all act tough since Falco is new and unproven here, right? Unlike Skyrim, people here do not engage in deep conversations or trust the player immediately. As you can see, fast travel is indeed available in this game, although you must have unlocked the respective areas first in order to travel to it. Falco explored the entire area that is accessible to him. Time to take care of his duties. For this, he goes to the Outer Bailey where the training area is. He hopes to join the other soldiers and keep up in terms of sharpness and technique. Falco meets Avarus, a seasoned soldier who recognizes Falco as Corvus' sibling. He praises Corvus' skills and then offers to train Falco in the basics of soldiering. He can choose between sparring with Muldock for hand-to-hand combat or practicing archery on targets. Either way, Avarus sets Falco on a path to improve his skills with the freedom to train as much as he needs before reporting back. It's a great way to dive into the game's combat mechanics and get yourself battle ready for the challenges ahead. A good amount of recruits and soldiers train here, so Falco hopes to prove himself to the commanders. I really like how the game eases you into the combat system and doesn't just throw you to the enemy. The process is gradual and the player understands the combat by simply doing it. As for Muldock, my sparring partner, there is no set goal. Just talk with him and hit him and you can already walk away and talk to Captain Avarus again. To summarize, Falco now knows how to handle a sword and how to perform basic movements to hit a target. Captain Avarus is satisfied with the results and forwards his reports to the commands in the keep. Falco has to wait for the next orders, it seems. I didn't talk much about journals yet, so let us have a look. In this entry, Falco reflects on his less than ideal instruction to Avalon's military. Summoned to the training grounds, he meets Captain Avarus, who seems unimpressed. Falco immediately notices how desperate Avalon is, recruiting young, inexperienced and unmotivated trainees to defend the Seven Kingdoms, a concerning sign for Avalon's future. Being told that he'll soon be on guard duty leaves him conflicted. He didn't come to Avalon for mundane tasks and hints at the disillusionment he's starting to feel. Penrith approaches Falco, telling him that something has gone wrong. Corvus was part of the large troop under General Ovoron's command, and any communication was cut off since then. There is no sign of that troop. A few scouts have already reported to General Sir Roth now. Penrith also suggests asking around at the South Gate as well. Calum is a friend of Penrith and will help Falco out. Clearly concerned of what he just heard, he goes back to the Outer Keep. Before approaching General Sir Roth, he fulfills his promise and ventures into the cellar of the kitchen to investigate. Putting concerns for his brother aside for the next few minutes, Falco beelines straight into the kitchen cellar. What will he encounter in this damp, dark place? The sound of chittering fills the air. He's armed with little more than a rusty blade and, let's face it, the courage of someone who probably didn't think this assignment through. First up, a creature that looks like a cockroach from someone's worst nightmare. You know, it's serious when it hisses before charging. Having gained experience from the recent training, Falco handles himself well against these strange big beetles. The large hole where these creatures come from is huge, and it looks like someone broke this hole open by force. Even more of these creatures are here. Thankfully, they are not shades. Still, they are numerous, but one by one, Falco defeats them until they are all dead. By the way, did I mention the X-ray function in this game? Very useful if a wall blocks your view. This quest might be a noob trap sometimes, since the bugs tend to hide at the walls and most new players may not be aware of the X-ray function. I say this because you need to kill all bugs in order to finish the quest. With the bugs dead and whatever food that is stored here is safe, Bonnie is more than happy that her suspicions were correct, but even more glad that Falco is safe and alive. Falco reports to Anora with these good news, and while she was skeptical and first thought it was maybe something smaller, like rats, she's glad the problem is taken care of. The hole in the wall caused by these bugs must be repaired, however, so guard Dave receives the task by Falco to repair this hole. Dave is the soldier who stands around all day, so this is a fitting task to keep him busy. Quick journal entry recap. You can see that Falco is talented at drawing, considering how detailed the bugs are. With the beetles dead, Falco prevented the food situation from getting bad to worse. Personally, this quest may seem easy, but the attack speed of these bugs is impressive. I can imagine a new player dying to them a few times. Back to our hard-working soldier. Dave tries to sneak out of his duty, but Falco gives him a stern telling. Falco did what he needed to do. Time to go back to Anora to report that Dave agreed to fix the hole in the wall. Anora is informed that Dave will start with the work, and she promises him that she will make him a cake once she receives supplies. This sounds tasty. Sadly, we will never get to see that cake in-game visually, but whatever. Back to the main quest. Guard Rove and Guard York already await Falco with the orders to let him in immediately. Let me save first.
Game saved.
Falco enters the commander's room of the Outer Keep. General Sir Roth greets him promptly. Falco speaks to Sir Roth about his missing brother, Corvus. Roth explains that a search party discovered signs of a battle in a nearby village, but no trace of Corvus. Since the Sha'ahoul rarely take prisoners, Roth believes Corvus is still alive. However, with the garrison weakened and the Sha'ahoul threat growing, Roth cannot spare additional soldiers to continue the search. When Falco requests permission to search for his brother, Roth agrees and arranges for him to be transferred to Mudam, the Master of Scouts, who can authorize the mission. Roth warns Falco of the dangers outside Avalon, but expresses confidence in his skills and provides a transfer letter to proceed. Having met with one of the council members in Avalon, Falco is glad to have met his childhood hero, were he not concerned with the situation of Corvus. Sir Roth suggests that Falco speaks to the members of the scouting party to get more information of the situation in the village. Sir Baldulf, Sir Angres and Sir Kainer. But if Corvus's body is nowhere to be found, and assuming he is still alive, what keeps him from coming back to the Citadel? Did he take a detour to avoid enemies? Is he stuck? Is he kidnapped? I guess we have to find out. Let us leave the mental gymnastics to uneducated redditors and continue. Falco meets Sir Baldulf. Some game files refer to him as Baldulf. I don't know. A former comrade of his brother who's been helping search for him. Baldulf, introducing himself as the Ferocious and Terrible, explains that he and Falco's brother were once bunkmates. Despite an extensive search, Baldulf shares that no trace of Falco's brother was found. Though this is actually somewhat reassuring, as it means the Sha'ahoul likely didn't capture him, as they don't take prisoners. Sir Kyner expresses his regret that no trace of Corvus was found, though they did come across signs of a recent battle near the old wizard's tower. The identity of the combatants remains a mystery. Kyner also reflects on how Corvus once saved his life, and he feels a sense of duty to repay the favor, even if the opportunity hasn't come yet. Falco speaks with Engres, a volunteer who wasn't particularly close to Corvus but joined the search to escape the confines of the Citadel. Engres shares that while he didn't find any direct signs of Corvus, he did encounter a troubling scene outside the old church. There were numerous warworms feeding on the dead and some strange tracks leading away from the area. When Falco asks about the tracks, Engres reveals they could be from either humans or the terrifying Sha'ahoul, leaving more questions than answers. His advice to Falco is simple: steer clear of the old church. As for the other people in this room, we won't see them again once we finish chapter 1, except for Sir Roth, who will move back to the inner keep. I assume they belong to the upper echelon of the command chain of the outer keep. Falco meets Gilmore, a Fornaxian advisor who expresses condolences for the loss of Falco's brother, Corvus. Gilmore is a member of the Fornax Council and was sent to Avalon as an advisor. Falco asks if the siege will last much longer, and Gilmore expresses hope that it will end soon as he longs to return home. Falco meets Lar, who greets him politely and offers assistance. When Falco asks where Lar is from, he reveals that he's originally from Oriam, not far from Avalon. Lar shares that his father was a merchant near the old dwarf city before they were attacked, hinting at a traumatic past. Falco also inquires about any rumors, and Lar grimly recounts the dire situation in the Peasants' Bailey, where the starving residents are reportedly eating the most horrific things to survive. It's a disturbing and unsettling image
Game saved.
that reflects the dire state of the surrounding areas. Falco receives a transfer of command from Sir Roth and is officially added to Mudam's scouting team. Mudam expresses confidence in Falco's abilities, though he still questions why Falco wants to join the scouts. Falco explains that his main goal is to search the village for clues about his missing brother, Corvus. Mudam, who knew Corvus well, acknowledges the danger of the task but empathizes with Falco's desire to find answers. He warns that many scouts have been lost recently and they know little about the situation in the village. However, Falco's determination shines through, and Mudam finally accepts him into the team. Fun fact, we never get to see who else is part of Mudam's scouting team. Mudam advises him to wait until sunset, move in the shadows, and consult Ovoron in the Outer Bailey for more information on the terrain outside Avalon. Falco needs to talk with Ovoron and Kalam, so he is prepared properly. Considering the pace, I like how the game gradually unlocks areas by the player being granted permission to leave the security of the walls. The game slowly picks up in terms of plot and gameplay. After talking with Mudam, the game turns the overworld into its night maps. Once you go outside, you will notice everything going dark. Surprisingly, the developers have been fairly easy on the darkness settings once you enter the village, considering there is no light there. Before jumping into crazy actions, let us take the stairs that leads to the 3rd floor of the outer keep. Patrol Theon won't let me pass here unless I have the right papers. Falco will be able to traverse this rather empty area towards the end of the siege. I guess the developers ran out of time to fully implement this floor. Speaking of time, we have to look at the night sky, where this game 3D. Once Falco steps outside, he notices the darkness settling in. Remember Lucan from the armory? He suggested Falco speak with Freeman, the blacksmith in the Outer Bailey. This phase of the game is all about playing fetch like a good dog. Thankfully, Falco must have been a track champion in a past life, so this is no challenge for him. I'll let you enjoy the crickets until we arrive. Falco meets Freeman, the blacksmith, and asks if he has any fine steel available. Freeman, frustrated, explains that the siege has left him with nothing but pig iron, useless for making proper weapons. He jokes that in a few weeks, even the horses will end up in the cooking pots. Freeman reveals that there might be fine steel hidden in the village outside the south gate. Before the siege, a wealthy man invested in steel, knowing that in times of war, it would be more valuable than gold. However, the army confiscated most of it, and the man never made it behind the walls, likely dying while trying to recover his hidden stash. Freeman proposes a deal. If Falco can retrieve the steel, he'll craft him a fine weapon. Falco acknowledges the danger but agrees to keep an eye out when exploring the village. Freeman mockingly calls him Kid, to which Falco objects, prompting Freeman to call him Soldier instead, wishing him luck in the search. So the situation is clear. There is a big shortage in quality steel in the entire Citadel, and it's up to us to fix this situation. Partially. I like the fact that the player faces problems, in this case, get below par equipment and solve the problem for others too while fixing his own. Falco returns to speak with Ovoron, who is aware of the dire situation with the Sha'ahoul and the recent raid. Ovoron warns Falco that going into the village alone is suicide, but Falco is determined. Ovoron, clearly accustomed to Falco's recklessness, offers some advice but also hints that his role is to keep an eye on things and share information. Mudam suggested Falco speak with him, though he's not particularly thrilled by it. He also points out that Falco hasn't received any army pay or funds. However, Ovoron offers Falco a favor in return for helping a friend of his, a woman named Pell, who has a problem. Ovoron doesn't want to say more, leaving it to Pell to share the details with Falco. He points her out near the horses and suggests Falco talk to her if he's willing to help. After Falco meets with Pell, she's initially reluctant to talk, stating that she doesn't feel like speaking with anyone. However, once Falco mentions that Ovoron sent him to help with her problem, Pell opens up. She introduces herself as Pelandrian or Pell and apologizes for making an assumption about Falco's age. She's surprised that someone so young might be capable of helping her, but quickly clarifies that she didn't mean to dismiss him. Pell starts explaining that Falco reminds her of someone, and in particular her fiancé, Lauren, who is a scholar and linguist with a passion for music. She describes how Lauren was once vibrant and full of life, with his harp and flute adding magic to his presence, but something changed and now he's distant and fearful. Pell confesses that she is a Fornaxan, a person whose blood is steeped in magic, and her magic is at the heart of the problem. Though Lauren had fallen in love with Pell, he was terrified of magic, and she never revealed her true nature to him. They had come to Avalon together for Lauren's studies, but their journey was fraught with danger, particularly when the Sha'ahoul attacked. Pell recalls the night of the assault vividly. Lauren was gravely wounded, and Pell, in a desperate attempt to defend them, unleashed her magic, killing the attackers. But when Lauren saw the magic she had used, he became terrified of her. Pell could hardly believe that the man she loved had recoiled from her, even after she healed him. The trauma caused by Pell's magic shattered their relationship. Lauren no longer looked at her, and the two haven't spoken in months. Pell has been watching him from afar, noticing subtle changes in his feelings, but she can't approach him herself without deepening his fear. She asks Falco to help, to talk to Lauren and understand his thoughts,
Game saved.
as she's afraid that direct confrontation would make things worse. Falco agrees to help and promises to approach Lauren carefully. Pell tells him that Lauren can usually be found near the merchant wagons and that Ovoron has been keeping an eye on him. She thanks Falco for his willingness to help and sends him on his way with a new quest. Next up we go to Lauren. No hate, but Lauren is a sad excuse of a man if I have ever seen one. He clearly misses Pell and clearly is feeling guilty for how he treated her during the Sha'ahoul attack. He is afraid of magic and nothing can change that. Falco challenges Lauren. Why let fear and pride keep him miserable? Is asking for forgiveness truly so difficult? Lauren resists, trapped in his own doubts. Seeing Lauren's torment, Falco offers to speak with Pell himself to find out if there's still hope for reconciliation. After some hesitation, Lauren agrees and gives Falco her full name. Pell. Pellandrian. Oh, Pell. Okay, do you know who Lauren reminds me of? Calcelmo from Markarth. I know, another Skyrim reference, but hear me out. Lauren's not an old grumpy scholar like Calcelmo, but there's something about that same kind of stubbornness, right? Lauren's a young guy, but he's trapped in his own pride and fear. Just like Calcelmo, who can't get past his obsession with the Dwemer, Lauren can't get past his irrational hatred of magic, even when it's standing in the way of his own happiness. They both resist change, too afraid to take a step forward. Even when it's obvious they're just hurting themselves more. It's like they're stuck in their own heads, making excuses. It's funny though, despite being around 11 years apart, I keep seeing this pattern in games, this idea that some people, no matter their age, will hold on to their flaws and fears until someone comes along to push them out of their comfort zone. And for Lauren, that someone is Falco. Did I mention that Calcelmo likes Redguard? Okay, back to Pell. Falco updates Pell, telling her that Lauren loves her, but is also in pain. He shares that Lauren's fear of magic has softened, though he hasn't revealed why he abandoned it. Pell wonders why Falco didn't bring Lauren with him, and Falco explains that Lauren is too afraid of rejection and can't face her. Pell admits she's partly at fault, but Falco warns against her approaching him, as Lauren would likely flee due to his fear of love. Pell asks if Lauren would believe her love, and Falco sadly says no. He has no confidence anymore. However, Falco refuses to give up and suggests he may be able to get Lauren to come to her. not to declare love, but to ask for forgiveness. Pell urges him to be careful, and Falco promises not to fail. Speaking of failure, Falco approaches Lauren once more and delivers what should be good news. Pell still loves him, but instead of relief, Lauren spirals into denial, twisting logic to convince himself otherwise. He even accuses Falco of lying. Falco tries to salvage the conversation, clarifying that Pell does hold anger in her heart, but this only makes things worse. Oh, Pell. Thinking quickly, Falco reframes the situation. Pell isn't just angry, she's hurt. And that means there's still a chance to make things right. Lauren should go to her and apologize. But there's just one problem. Lauren can't bring himself to face Pell without a proper gift. And so the task falls to Falco. He must find something meaningful for Lauren to offer. Fun fact, Pell despises the color red. She refuses to be seen as a bloody rose. Maybe venturing into the enemy territory provides answers. Despite being so suspiciously close to each other, Falco turns to Ovoron for advice, explaining that the real issue isn't Pell. It's Lauren's refusal to believe she'd forgive him so easily. A gift might help, but neither of them has anything suitable. Ovoron admits he doesn't have much advice. Gold works for most women, but Pell isn't like most women. With the siege ongoing, anything of value is scarce, unless Falco is willing to start looting. Finally, Ovoron has a request of his own. There's a particular house in the village that's rumored to be intact, containing a magically locked chest. He wants Falco to confirm its presence and condition. Falco informs Pell that Lauren struggles to believe she'd forgive him, though he's convinced a gift might help. Finding one, however, is another challenge. Pell insists she'd accept anything, but Falco knows Lauren wants something truly meaningful. With little of value in the keep, he must search outside, despite the danger. Concerned, Pell teaches him Shadow, a spell to help him avoid detection. Falco meets Holt, a nervous but opportunistic arms dealer who insists his shop is perfectly legitimate, despite the poor quality weapons on display. When Falco mentions the steel shortage, Holt lowers his voice and hints at having better weapons hidden away, though they come at a price. Holt justifies his shady dealings by saying that those with good swords survive, while those without don't. Falco is given a choice: buy from Holt's secret stash, refuse to pay for questionable goods, or threaten to turn him in. It's a classic dilemma: pragmatism versus morality, set against the desperate backdrop of the siege. It's a shame the game doesn't explore further how Holt got all these goods. Seeing all this mid-game armor is a tease for the early game player, but yeah, what can you do? Also, it is impossible to snitch on Holt. Falco understands that preparation is key, especially when facing the unknown. With dangers lurking beyond the keep, he decides to use this time to sharpen his skills. Training now could mean the difference between survival and failure when the real challenges arise. Lucan teaches Falco a bit of what he knows and wishes him luck. Yeah, I made up the last part. Falco's next task is to speak with Elazar, who resides on the second floor of the south gate. Navigating the keep's many halls and staircases has become second nature to him by now, as he dashes from one end to the other without breaking a sweat. In a world where stamina bars don't exist, running endlessly is just another part of daily life. When Falco asks Soren, one of the lookouts, if he's seen Corvus, Soren recalls spotting him running through the village the day before. Corvus was being chased by a group of Sha'ahoul raiders but kept turning to fight them off. Soren praises his skill as a warrior but admits he doesn't know what happened next. Corvus vanished down an alley and no one has seen him since. Calum confirms that Corvus was seen running through the village while being chased by an Sha'ahoul hunting party. However, he lost sight of him when Corvus turned down a dark alley. The wizard Elazar reveals that he has been expecting him and confirms that Corvus is alive, although weak. Elazar explains that while he can sense Corvus's life force, something seems to be hiding him, as whenever Elazar tries to pinpoint him, he slips away. Falco insists on going after his brother and Elazar encourages him, acknowledging the slim chance of success but offering his well wishes. Before Falco leaves, Elazar warns him to be careful as strange and dangerous things are lurking. So from what I can tell, Elazar can foresee future events. I wonder how and why this will be used as we progress further in the game. I could laugh and joke about it, but you know the answer. It's few and far between. Elarav, the wizard, and Friar Massus are still left. Elarav is found in the northeastern part of the outer keep on the second floor. Elarav. When visiting Elarav, he mentions he's going on a mission to the village and says that Olon, the merchant, told him that Elarav knows something about it. Elarav explains that the village is built on the ruins of an ancient city, and while the area is mostly abandoned, it could be home to animals or even more exotic creatures. Falco thanks him for the information and asks if there's anything else Elarav recalls. Elarav then remembers he's been looking for a valuable amulet lost when Elazar's research cart broke an axle near the village. This amulet is essential for his portal research and he asks Falco to find it. The whole amulet thing is a side quest for chapter 5, but let us not rush things. Friar Massus is in the chapel in the first floor in the outer keep, so let's go there. Massus reveals that while he lived there for a short time, he's unsure of what remains as he mainly stayed at the church. Falco, however, is set on an expedition to the village and mentions that Olon, the merchant, suggested Massus might know something useful. Massus, though, downplays his knowledge, saying he's only seen the village from afar and that little remains. But then Massus brings up a potential favor Falco could help with. The friar reveals that during the evacuation, a minor artifact, the Chalice of Life, was left behind. Recently, it has become a superstitious symbol for the villagers, who believe its loss foretells doom. Massus asks Falco to recover it from the old church, which has become a dangerous place since the Sha'ahoul attacked. I think that's enough for play. Falco decides he is prepared enough to venture to the village.
Game saved.
Intermezzo time.
Game saved.
Before continuing the story, let us have a brief recap of the situation as of now. Just outside the gates of Avalon, a 12-year war realizes its climax. The uneasy alliance of 7 western kingdoms created the Citadel of Avalon as a mighty fortress. For 12 years, the battle has been gallantly fought against the Sha'ahoul raiders from the distant steppes of the east. But in the last 8 months, the Citadel has become a city of refugees, a city under siege. The Sha'ahoul, under the banner of the Shaman Warlord Mithras, are waging a genocidal war against the Citadel. It is the year 249 in early summer now. With supplies and morale running precariously low, General Ovoron, commander of the Citadel's field forces, hatches a bold plan. He personally leads a huge expedition, 1/3 of Avalon's forces, on a raid against the poorly defended enemy supply camp. The general is never seen again. Vanishing with him are 1,700 men. The south gate is sturdy and, despite battering from shaman mages and siege engines, it is still in a good condition thanks to the intervention of watchful archers on the walls. The outer bailey is where soldiers train, improve themselves. A few traders also set up shop to sell their goods. Horses are also here. Here is the outer keep where Falco has his bunk with his brother, a large kitchen with a dining hall, plenty full of rooms for soldiers to house, and a chapel can be found here. The Peasants' Bay houses pretty much all the peasantry and refugees of the lower class, currently under strict quarantine due to an outbreak of a disease. Due to lack of supplies, famine seriously affects the peasants. The inner bailey acts as the main trade hub and entertainment spot. A tavern has recently been opened here. The ambassador of Fornax, currently absent, resides here. The docks of Avalon used to be full of activities and fishing ships. The Lady Ailey, the only ship that ever made to Avalon safely since the siege, is docked here. The ship is heavily damaged and unable to set sail to the Royal River. The inner keep is the heart of the defenders. The generals of the Urail coalition and the King of Oriam, King Ryans, reside here. King Isimus of Cathea also recently has joined. Not playing a significant role are Dwarf's Bailey, Merchant's Bailey, Soldier's Bailey, Training Bailey, Noble Bailey, and Cattle Bailey. Let us analyze the structure of both armies. The defenders, the army of Avalon, where the coalition of Urail contributed their soldiers to. King Ryans is the current ruler of Oriam. The capital city of Oriam is lost and now he is a refugee, allowing the generals of Avalon's army to utilize mainly Oriam's remaining forces. General Ovoron is the supreme commander of the defenders. Expert in siege warfare and tactical maneuvers, General Ovoron is a force to reckon with on the battlefield. Since the raid on the Sha'ahoul camp, he is missing in action alongside his troops. General Sir of Hildebrand, a veteran of this war, mainly gained continental fame at the Battle of the Three Hills, where the King Tortain of Tableland was killed in action. Sir Mabon steps up as the leader in General Ovoron's absence. Does he have what it takes to command? Chancellor Herod Pador is a mediator between the entire nobility. Interior Minister Lord Tavels is responsible for all happenings inside the walls. Mudam is the Master Scout and is mainly tasked for dangerous stealth tasks with his scouting units. He decides who leaves the Citadel for duties due to shortage in fighting men. Captain Calvaric is the Minister of Defense. Captain Averus is in charge of training recruits and soldiers. Lenrith is a respected knight overseeing the Outer Bailey. Calum oversees the South Gate. King Vortigern, son of King Torthane and the new monarch of the Kingdom of Tableland, managed to stop the civil war of Tableland and gathered an army en route to Avalon to lift the siege. The whereabouts of the army of Tableland is currently unknown for the isolated defenders. It is estimated that it could take many weeks until they arrive. Now on to the besiegers, the alliance of the Sha'ahoul clans. The leader is Shaman Mithras, enjoying full authority among all clans who joined the war. Some Avalonians have started to call him Firewalker due to his unstoppable skills in offensive magic. He is the supreme commander of the army, originally head of the Grass Leopard clan. Mithras Elite Guards. They are the elite bodyguards of Mithras and they command both the Shaman Mages and the Warrior caste in the field of battle, acting as generals. Their names are unknown, so we just call them Red, Green, Orange, Blue, Purple, and Yellow. When they use their magic, their entire body glows due to the vibrant tattoos they have. They are former shaman mages that have completed a series of ancient rituals, sacrificing a portion of their souls to allow their bodies to contain more spiritual magic. Sha'ahoul Clan Leader. These clan leaders are the spiritual elders of the warrior caste and can be found meditating among the clans. Magic is their means of defense. You can recognize them by the headdress they have. They act as colonels. The Dreamwalkers are skilled shaman, but their exact role is unknown. Mithras relies on them for manipulation of magic and souls. Then we have the irregular shaman, acting as lieutenants. All warlords are brutes, focusing on melee combat and lead small groups of fighters, acting as corporals. For 8 months now, the siege has continued, with neither side breaking the will of the other. That balance cannot last much longer.
In Chapter 1, only the first 4 villages are available for the player to traverse to. The others are simply off limits, and approaching the edge of the maps will simply provide an invisible barrier. Falco steps out alone, leaving the safety of the Citadel behind. It's a dark, early summer night, but the mild weather means he can travel light without worrying about the cold. The core gameplay loop is straightforward. Head into the village, gather loot, and return to the keep. Most of the loot can be sold for gold to buy better gear, though in reality, the best equipment is usually found rather than bought. Players can also stash items in a chest for later use. Pretty much all chests in the keep are safe to store items, except in the beginning of Chapter 6. Between runs, Falco returns to the keep to report progress and receive new objectives before heading out again. That's the basic cycle of exploration and survival. The usual crickets and wolf sounds aside, the clash of swords can be heard. Falco used the shadow spell to cloak himself in the darkness, though since he is no mage, his effectiveness in casting spells is limited for now. The usual owl can be heard too. Falco just killed the first Sha'ahoul he encountered, but that was just against a lowly scout. Let's hope he can avoid the mighty shaman mages. The mightier the foe, the better the loot, usually. The sight of the village's half-destroyed buildings haunts Falco. Once, this was a place of peace, filled with people going about their lives. Now it's a hollow ruin, a grim reminder of the invading hordes that tore through, leaving nothing but emptiness and decay.
Game saved.
Falco approaches the gardens Brother Mo mentioned. In the back, he spots a rose bush, likely a sign that the herbs he needs are nearby. Uh-oh, Falco is low on health. There are no autosaves in this game except when you travel to another map. Damn, couldn't even land the final hit. That creature straight up interrupted my attack. Every chapter has its own game over screen. I appreciate the fact that even the game over screen is a journal entry, which makes it more immersive. In this one, Falco wakes up in the Citadel, recovering from his wounds. Just as he was about to finish up his diary, the Sha'ahoul stormed the keep and he dies. Falco notices the stale water on this pretty fountain. He wonders why the Sha'ahoul didn't destroy it. The Mersevox are nasty little creatures who love hiding in tall grass. They gave Corvus a hard time too. They are quick, but thankfully can be defeated quickly. Sure enough, he finds what he's looking for. With that, one quest is almost complete.
Game saved.
The plot thickens. Falco notices a scroll with unknown writing on this defeated enemy. Maybe there is a way to translate this. Most of the scouts carry light leather armor, which won't improve Falco's current equipment set by much. The first village map is rather unremarkable except for the pretty fountain and the gardens. Falco decides to return to the keep for a quick refresh. Might as well deliver the herbs to Brother Mo. Back to safety. Falco only has 9 crowns, which is nowhere near to buy anything from Holt. He can, however, sell the loot he found and increase the size of his pocket. Initially, Falco thought that every merchant gives different prices when he sells something. Looks like this isn't the case. Everything is dependent on his charisma. Alright, let's deliver the herbs to Mo. The monk is relieved and overjoyed, thanking the spirits and expressing his deep gratitude. He tells Falco that these herbs will save nearly the entire infirmary and praises him, saying it's as if the spirits themselves are guiding his path. Before Falco leaves, Brother Mo brings up a more personal matter. He acknowledges the loss of Falco's brother and offers his prayers. However, he warns that if Corvus is still alive, he is likely gravely wounded. Infection and fever pose a greater threat than the battlefield itself, and healing magic won't stop a fever. Mo gives Falco a piece of the herb and urges him to feed it to Corvus when he finds him. Though bitter and unpleasant, it will suppress the fever long enough to get him back to safety. With this crucial task ahead, Falco prepares for the journey, knowing time is of the essence. A quick stop at Brother Crosby fully restores Falco, healing his wounds and replenishing his mana. With renewed strength, he is ready to continue his journey. Just by finishing this quest, the inhabitants of the Citadel will perceive Falco differently, especially the monks, for now. Falco still needs to find Corvus and the Chalice of Life. Also, there is the matter of Laren and Pell. On to the next section of the village. The church can be seen on the other side. Remember, it is unknown what is actually happening there. Falco just found a decent helmet which covers the head. Nice. Fancy boots made of fur, crafted by the Sha'ahoul. These will be an improvement compared to the short leather shoes of his. An archer was silently sneaking in the building, shooting directly at Falco. Smart move, but the first arrow missed. Now he's vulnerable to his sword. He ignores the long bow. A well-hidden stairway leads to the basement of a ruined house. Expecting something valuable, he instead finds only rubble and an annoyingly persistent spider. A quick healing spell works wonders, for the enemy noticed him. A sapphire ring. This is perfect. Falco decides to take this ring and present it to Laren later. Without doubt, this is a great gift. The difference between a broadsword and a longsword isn't huge in terms of stats, but at the very least, the broadsword can be sold for a decent price. Warworms appear when getting close to the church cemetery. The scouting party warned Falco of these dangerous creatures. Did that scout train with ghosts, or did the walls just decide to take the day off? Game loaded. Again. Well, I never said it would be easy. Now I know what you might be thinking, but to truly capture the experience, I have to show the failures too. After all, what's a good adventure without a few missteps? Speaking of thinking, Falco decides it's time to return to the Citadel for a brief break from the action. Thank you, Brother Crosby. With all the experience gained from battles outside, Falco decides it's time for further training with Lucan. Combat Breathing grants 5 hit points and +1 healing rate for 3 points. Armor Fitting reduces restriction by 2 for 3 points. Field First Aid provides 2 hit points and +1 healing rate for just 2 points. But there's more. Training with Udam further sharpens Falco's combat prowess. Center of Balance boosts defense by 2 and reduces recovery time from hits by 2 for 3 points. Basic Camouflage improves stealth by 2, reduces restriction by 1 and adds 1 perception, also for 3 points. Simply put, training with a master is far more efficient than manually improving stats. This is an example of smart game design. Allowing players to optimize their growth while keeping choices meaningful. With all this said and done, Falco heads into the village for a third time. No Sha'ahoul so far picked up on the fact that the current scouts are dead. This is a good sign, and that Falco can move on with his operation without fear of ambush. I don't want to disturb the silence, but shouldn't we...
Game saved.
Thank you, Mr. Game Saved. Falco notices a house that has stairs leading up to... nowhere. There is no second floor. Please ignore. Anyways, revenge time. No more ghosting. The satisfaction of killing someone after reloading so many times. A shield, a ring, and a scroll? Things are heating up here. Also, a nice axe with a unique name. Yes, the game distributes these, well, what should I call them? Legendary items? With special stats and lore text throughout the game. Find them all if you can. What I never understood is if you see a shield in the inventory, you see the backside of it, but not the front. So you have to wear them to see what kind of skin it actually has. I am going to pretend that the developer didn't want to save time here. By now, you've probably figured out the basics of combat. If things get too dangerous, just run away, turn around, and strike again before the enemy can hit you. Simple but effective, as long as your attack speed is higher than theirs.
Game saved.
Otherwise, well, you might just be running into trouble. Also, please don't be like me and properly manage your life points before heading into battle. By now, you know the drill. We need Brother Crosby. Also, it's mating season for the wolves. Gotta love how the wolf sound abruptly ends after all that spam. I hope you like the portcullis ASMR. A wizard's robe. Now Falco can dress like Elarath and be forgetful what he ate for lunch.
Game saved.
The cemetery holds nothing of real value, just a bunch of annoying war worms. It feels like a missed opportunity that the small building in the corner doesn't lead to some kind of hidden dungeon. He still needs to investigate the church, but first he wants to secure the area. The last thing you want is for the Sha'ahoul to block the only way in or out while you're trapped inside. A little precaution now can save a lot of trouble later. Nice, a big shield which takes up more space but also provides better defense. If you ask me, this is a non-issue if you intend to wield it anyways. Otherwise, sell it. Falco loots a proper chainmail from the fallen Sha'ahoul. With both his skills and gear now up to standard, he's truly prepared for the challenges ahead. As far as I know, this is the only steel kilt you can get in the entire game. So if you're looking for that extra bit of protection while rocking the medieval femboy aesthetic, this one's for you. Falco is suffering from success. All that loot, but no place to carry. He thinks it would be wise to run straight through the village with a hole on his back to sell his stuff. Thankfully, he's faster than the hole even with more weight to carry. Now it's time to let our hero act as a shrewd merchant. The prices aren't that great, but it will do. You'd think Falco would get great prices right away, but nope. The game sticks to the classic RPG rule. You start as a nobody with low skills and gradually work your way up. And honestly, I'm fine with that. I prefer vertical progression over horizontal anyway. Whether the crickets annoy you or not, I'll let you be the judge. It's early summer after all. Ah yes, the storage system again. Falco's chest mostly holds a bunch of basic tunics and vests in different colors. I usually get rid of most of them and keep only the important items for display purposes. The longer you play, the fancier your collection becomes. It's a nice visual representation of character progression, and I really appreciate that touch. Another stair that leads to the basement, but again it's a dead end. And no spider this time. Falco notices a large grey building in the south, which is the Wizard's Tower. He may approach it closer. Those scouts are more nimble than the ones he encountered before. Looks like the deeper one ventures into the village, the stronger the enemies.
Game saved.
Now, the Wizard's Tower. For now, there's no way to get in. But as a kid, I was convinced there had to be a way. Maybe by climbing up and entering that iron door up there. Turns out, it's just a classic early game tease, making you wonder what secrets might be inside. Not that it really looks like a tower, but more like a small fortress. Village 4. This is the last part that can be accessed in Chapter 1, and going further is impossible by this invisible wall. Falco didn't explore this area yet, so to summarize, Village 1 contains the gardens for the herbs, Village 2 the church, Village 3 the Wizard's Tower that cannot be accessed, and Village 4 contains... we will see. Well, a fine steel bar, gleaming slightly in front of Falco. So this wasn't just another lame basement full of spiders after all. This must be the very steel Freeman the blacksmith mentioned. Guess his story wasn't cow dung after all. Another basement, another chest, and, of course, more spiders. Seriously, what is it with spiders and basements? Anyway, inside the chest, Falco finds elven leather breeches, one of those special items with the CD prefix. Don't believe me? Check the screenshot. Given how outstanding their stats are compared to anything Falco has seen so far, he immediately puts them on. Fashionable and functional. So far, the expedition to Village 4 has been pretty rewarding. A steel bar, green elven breeches. What next? We've been hearing these wolves howling non-stop while exploring the village. Now Falco finally gets to punish them for all that noise. Call it justice or just sweet silence. Funny movements like this can happen when you get stuck in tight spaces. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the jankiness. Proper leather gloves. Now he is truly a gentleman. An old library catches Falco's attention. Strangely, the Sha'ahoul seem extra vigilant around this place. Makes you wonder, what exactly is going on? He encounters a large rock blocking the entrance to the library basement. Despite his best efforts, he's unable to slip past it, leaving him stuck and unable to proceed further into the area. Perhaps he should check it out later. It's time to present the sapphire ring to Lauren and come to the conclusion of this lover's story.
Game saved.
Falco finally delivers the sapphire ring to Lauren, who is moved by the gesture. Lauren said it before that Pell really loves the color blue, hence why she dresses in blue. He gathers his courage, preparing to approach Pell. Our hero wishes good luck to Lauren. Our beloved protagonist thinks it would be a good idea to tell Pell that Lauren will come soon so that she is prepared. She eagerly asks if Lauren is coming. After confirming, Pell reflects on the situation, expressing her deep emotions and the complexity of love. She acknowledges the silliness of it all, but also its profound importance. Pell thanks Falco for his help, saying she owes him a debt she can never fully repay. She offers her assistance should he ever need it. Pell expresses her gratitude and Falco bids her farewell, wishing that one day he too might experience love in the way she has. Now that this quest has come to a happy end, let's continue. Lauren is a linguist who studied the culture of the Sha'ahoul as well as their language. Falco thinks it would be a good idea to get to know their enemy better. Lauren explains that the people referred to as the Sha'ahoul consist of the Sha'ahoul, a brutish race similar to orcs, and the Shaman, a human mage caste that has been allied with the Sha'ahoul for centuries. The two groups have created crossbreeds, though the specifics of how this happens remain unclear. Lauren provides details on the Sha'ahoul society, noting the division into castes, the Shaman as the dangerous leaders, and the warrior caste composed of Sha'ahoul, crossbreeds, and non-magical humans. There are also hints of other castes like hunters and slaves, though little is known about them. Now that Falco has a basic understanding of the Sha'ahoul, let's continue. Remember when I said the plot thickens when he found these strange scrolls? Lauren is a linguist and should be able to translate them. On to the first scroll with an unknown writing. Upon examining the scroll, Lauren deciphers it as a set of orders mentioning a dirtman who escaped the village and is responsible for several Sha'ahoul deaths. The orders call for a slow death if the dirtman is captured, and they are signed by a shaman, likely the local commander. Falco immediately wonders if the dirtman could be his brother. Lauren assures him that this is all the scroll contains. A second scroll with a strange writing is presented to Lauren. He deciphers the message, revealing orders for the Sha'ahoul and crossbreeds to gather in the village for the night. The document mentions a project nearing completion and specifically instructs the soldiers to keep all dirtmen away from the church. It also implies that soldiers will be rewarded for returning something to the shaman, though Lauren is unsure what exactly. Falco connects this to recent reports of strange occurrences at the church. Realizing the Sha'ahoul's involvement, he thanks Lauren for this crucial information, now understanding the purpose behind the large presence of Sha'ahoul in the village. This information means that Falco now has a stronger reason to investigate the church, which he had already planned to do. The orders suggest that the church is somehow central to the Sha'ahoul's plans, so it's crucial for Falco to check it out. Additionally, the mention of Dirtman and the reference to rewards for returning something to the shaman may hint that Corvus has been seen in the area,
Game saved.
though his exact whereabouts remain unknown. Our hero delivers the good news to Ovoron that Pell is once again reunited with Lauren. Falco delivers the steel bar to Freeman, the blacksmith, who eagerly asks if he's found the material. Falco confirms that he has, mentioning there's around 30 or 40 units of steel in that basement. Freeman is pleased, though he had hoped for more, but reassures Falco that every scrap is valuable. He quickly gets to work preparing his forge, but Falco reminds him about the sword Freeman promised. Hello? Freeman dismisses the request for the moment, urging Falco to talk to Penrith, who is in the Outer Bailey, to have him organize a team to gather more steel. Freeman assures Falco that the sword will be ready once he finishes his work. Reluctantly, Falco agrees to do Freeman's bidding, though with some obvious hesitation, and begrudgingly heads off to find Penrith. Falco mentions to Penrith that a cache of steel has been found in the village, which Penrith initially doubts, suspecting it's just another one of Freeman's stories. However, after hearing that Falco discovered the steel himself, Penrith acknowledges that Freeman was right. Falco asks Penrith to send a few men to gather the rest of the steel, but Penrith hesitates, stating that the area isn't safe enough for a group to go in. He agrees to send men only if the area is secured first. Falco promises to clear the area of Sha'ahoul when he returns to the village and assures Penrith he'll make the area safe. Penrith agrees, giving Falco the task to secure the area. So what exactly means secure the area? The game explains it poorly, so let me do it. It means that the player character needs to kill all enemies in Village 1 and 3, which makes sense, since this would be the route one has to travel through in order to get the steel. Remember the amulet Elarav the wizard requested? Turns out that Elazar had it all along. The wizard laughs at the fact that Elarav had been searching for it next to a broken cart. Elazar hands over the amulet, suggesting that Elraf might need some herbs for his memories. As Falco receives the amulet, Elazar also warns him about an underground city, urging him to stay away from it due to its extreme danger. Falco expresses his intent to heed the warning, though Elazar, knowing Falco's adventurous nature, doubts he will resist the temptation to explore it. Nonetheless, he advises Falco to be cautious if he does venture there. This whole underground city thing is a topic for the next chapter, so let's deliver the amulet to Elraf first.
Game saved.
Elraf is thrilled to receive it, declaring that he will begin work on completing the portal immediately. He expresses hope that the portal will be a helpful tool for their cause. In gratitude, Elraf gives Falco some training points. While our hero is here, he might as well participate in some training, but this time magic. Magecraft grants 2 Perception and 2 Mysticism and accelerates the mana recharge rate by 2 at the cost of 5 points. Basic Energy Management grants 5 mana at the cost of 3 points. Minor Meditation grants 1 recharge rate for mana for 3 points. The basic Flame spell costs 2 points. The Frost spell also 2. Hold costs 1 point, which immobilizes the target for a short time. With all that, a sudden jump of skills and equipment has been reached. Let's continue. Falco finds these spells fancy, but it's obvious they are weak yet due to the fact he is still a beginner. As for the quest, he needs to secure the area, which means killing all enemies in Village 3. He notices a strange house that is still intact and almost undamaged by the Sha'ahoul. He enters the house and, to his surprise, a Sha'ahoul warrior is in there. His rank and skills is clearly above the scouts he encountered so far. Did you see that? He almost killed Falco. Now imagine what 2 of those warriors would have done. He finds a key ring which serves to unlock the chest in the room, as well as a leather and steel breastplate. The chest contains black boots of the shadows. Apparently it grants a bit of stealth.
Game saved.
The area is now secure, proclaims Falco in a satisfied manner. Now he can return to Penrith and then receive his new gift from Freeman. Our hero is a bit insecure whether to go in or not, but he gathers his courage and steps in. The old wooden door creaks loudly. The church is dimly lit at best, and the Sha'ahoul damaged the furnitures, but the building itself is fully intact. Two Sha'ahoul guard the altar, but thankfully they are lowly scouts. Oh wow, common steel pauldrons. Now he can look like a proper knight. See this amulet? When going for the search of Elraf's amulet and you didn't finish the quest yet, Elraf would inspect this amulet but say that this isn't the one. It's simply a red herring. Falco watches the eerily dark study room of the monks, now completely abandoned, with a few books scattered around here and there. A beautiful, almost peaceful indoor garden is to be found at the church's left wing. The area is tightly guarded by the Sha'ahoul. The chain mace catches Falco's attention. Personally, I like the variety this game provides in terms of melee weapons. Looking at you, Skyrim. In hindsight, I think it would be a great game mechanic if the player character can rest in a bed, provided there are no enemies nearby, thus restoring life points and mana. Now if you play for the first time, you might get stuck for a moment. But if you hover with your mouse over this candle, it glows and the hint has been given. Press it and voila! He enters the basement of the church and he sees guards posted there. Clearly the Sha'ahoul are up to something here. But what? Falco hears the faint crack of rocks breaking. As he turns, his gaze lands on a powerful figure in the distance. Oh no.
Game saved.
He gathers his courage and charges straight to his direction.
Game saved.
It's a shaman, one of the most powerful regular units of the Sha'ahoul army. He pinned down Falco. What? He's dead? This is what happens if you don't use fireballs and frost. Rejoice! Falco found the Chalice of Life, a sacred artifact which boosts his stats considerably. A signet of Latigit, as well as a scroll with odd writing and a scroll with unusual writing, is on this dead shaman. Although this foe is formidable, there's still no sign of Corvus. As Falco scans the area, his eyes catch sight of a tunnel, clearly dug by someone. Our hero decides to wield this chalice and he feels a surge of magical power now. Sha'ahoul with pickaxes clearly digging into one direction, straight to the basement of the south gate of the Citadel. Falco is trying to recover from this shock and the situation is clear. Had he not arrived, they would have finished digging and could have infiltrated the keep from below. He must report this to Mudam so that preventive actions can be taken. With all enemies in the area neutralized, it is oddly silent here. He checks the area just to be sure. With the area secured and the church investigated, it is time to go back to the keep. Let's get rid of the loot first. I hope you enjoy this part as much as I do. Falco reports he found the right house with an intact chest inside. When Falco returns the key, the boots are a gift and Olon wants the key back as it holds sentimental value. Falco is then told about secret tunnels. He learns from Olon about underground tunnels in the village, rumored to hold treasure. Olon hints at an opportunity for Falco to gain power and recognition. He's asked to keep an eye out for the tunnels, as finding them could benefit everyone, including Falco. The conversation grows deeper as Olon reveals his own motivations. He emphasizes that allies are crucial in these dangerous times, and he sees potential for greatness in Falco. Helping each other is key to survival, and while they stand even now, continued cooperation could lead to much more. I give it to the devs for trying, but Olon acts as this secretive character with a lot of power behind, but even if you double-cross him, he can do nothing to harm the player character. It's a fact. As you can see, the rest of the conversation is Olon glazing Falco. Now it's time to tie up loose ends. He reports to Penrith that the area is now safe and that his team can retrieve the rest of the steel. Penrith is grateful and Falco is now free to go to Freeman and receive his reward. Freeman commands Falco's efforts and then gives him a sword, saying it's a fine weapon to wield with pride. Falco jokes that the sword would have been useful earlier in his mission, but is still grateful to have it now. He thanks Freeman for the weapon and bids him farewell. Now, as for the sword itself, it's an officer's sword and can easily rank itself with other mid-game weapons. So far, this is the best reward in this game, except for the Axe of Confidence, and we are still in Chapter 1. Again, this quest was a good example of struggling and then receiving a reward worth the effort. Don't mind him, just reorganizing his stuff. Oh yeah, we forgot to report to Mudam, so let's get this done. Falco warns Mudam that the Sha'ahoul were headed toward the south gate and suggests they keep an eye on the church to prevent further attempts. Mudam agrees with this precaution. Three loose ends left. 1. Deliver the chalice to Friar Masses and be hailed as the hero of the Citadel. Secondly, the tunnel story will continue, but more on that later. Third, find Corvus. When Falco returns with the chalice, Friar Masses is overjoyed, praising the recovery of the chalice as a great victory for the Alliance. He explains how the chalice will boost morale and hearten the people. Friar Masses assures Falco that he is always welcome and that the doors of the chapel are open to him. Falco thanks him before leaving. Boost the morale it does, because from now on, pretty much all inhabitants of the keep will talk with Falco in a very respectful manner. See here. Even Mikkel apologizes. Olon remarks that it seems Falco has lived up to the expectations and become a hero, having won his wager. Falco humbly downplays the idea of being a hero, suggesting it's not as grand as others may think. Notice this? The stairs down to the basement is not guarded anymore. Our hero uses this opportunity and rushes downstairs. Netzi and Kellerman are upset that Falco came here and they attack. Our hero is forced to defend himself.
Game saved.
I didn't mention it so far, but yes, if you want, you can attack any inhabitant of the Citadel by yourself, but this would prevent that you advance the story of the game, since no one would talk with you and you end up getting attacked by everyone. But it's nice that the developer still gives the player the chance to do what he wants with the consequences. Looking at you, Morrowind. Another CD item previously referred to as legendary or special. This time it's the Giant's Pauldrons. Look how happy he is, fully clad in steel. Well, except the arms. Wait, another tunnel? Enemies digging inside and traitors digging outside. Die, traitor. Falco still didn't notice that his stats aren't up to standard to wield the officer's sword properly. Ah, now he noticed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Restriction, where you cannot wear whatever you want, whenever you want.
Game saved.
Falco informs Mudam that while exploring Southgate's basement, he was attacked by soldiers. Forced to defend himself, he discovered they were digging a tunnel leading towards the village, likely heading straight for the church. At the same time, he found a hole tunneling from the other side. If not stopped, the tunnels would have soon connected, giving the hole direct access to Avalon. Shocked, Mudam realizes the severity of the situation and insists on reporting it to General Roth. He commends Falco for his heroism, recognizing the impact of his discovery. Falco expresses concern for his missing brother Corvus and informs Mudam that he may know where to find him. Mudam grants him leave but warns of unsettling rumors. A massive humanoid creature has been spotted near the ruined library. Though previously dismissed as mere superstition, Mudam advises caution. With that, Falco sets out once more, determined to find his brother. Now, there is a bit of anachronism there. Our hero should have went to Laren with the last 2 scrolls and then investigate Southgate. Oh well. It's time to wrap up Chapter 1. Before heading to the village a last time, let Lauren decipher the last 2 scrolls. First, the scroll with odd writing. The scroll appears to be a to-do list detailing an operation nearing completion. Crucially, it mentions the escaped Dirtman. Falco's brother Corvus has been located. Lauren deciphers more. Corvus wasn't captured but was last seen at what seems to be the library, where a large creature had killed several Sha'ahoul. The creature then retreated underground, and the Sha'ahoul sealed it in with a boulder. The scroll suggests that Corvus may also be trapped there, possibly facing the beast. The final note states that a shaman was supposed to handle the creature with magic before it could break free. Falco, knowing the shaman is already dead, realizes this won't happen. The final scroll with the unusual writing. Lauren, who immediately notes its oddity, it's parchment instead of hide, which suggests it may have come from Avalon. However, it contains Sha'ahoul writing, making it a peculiar find. As Lauren struggles to translate, he finds the writing irregular, almost childlike. He deciphers cryptic phrases, something about a project going well, conflict within the walls, possibly referring to Avalon, stolen medicines leading to deaths from sickness, and a hole in the wall, allowing creatures, perhaps insects, access to food. The final part mentions a false battle, though its meaning is unclear. Falco, however, sees the grim reality in these words. He realizes this confirms the presence of traitors within Avalon. So the traitors in the South Gate basement were General Ovoron's goons, but who made the hole in the kitchen basement? We will never find out. On to the finale of Chapter 1. Corvus should be beneath the library. Falco is unsure what creature awaits him, but with his fine sword and steel armor, he is ready to take this challenge on. This is the library, but wait, the entrance is not blocked as it was before.
Game saved.
Falco can slip past that rock now. Boss battle. Falco stares at this huge ogre and that giant creature stares back. Without hesitation, the ogre swings his club towards Falco. But what's this? Falco gathers all his concentration and slings a frost spell towards the ogre. The ogre attacks and Falco takes evasive action. Falco summons a fireball and shoots directly at him. Again, the ogre withstands the impact and swings his club again, only to miss it. Falco is out of mana. He resorts to melee combat. Meanwhile, the ogre successfully lands a hit at Falco and he loses half of his life points. Again, he takes evasive action, wheels around and then fully charges at the ogre. If the ogre hits him again, it's over. The ogre cannot keep up. Falco lands one decisive blow and it's down. The ogre is down. Do you listen? Do you listen to me? The ogre is down. Okay, as for the loot, a fine cuirass, steel gauntlets, fine steel pauldrons, and a crude club are to be found. The steel armor is an excellent addition, though the club is too slow to be used effectively despite its raw damage numbers. Now, on to the real reward. Someone is in the back of the room.
Little brother, what are you doing here? Never mind, you must be here to find me. I'm glad to see you, little brother, and proud. Now listen to me, I have terrible news that Sir Off must be made aware of as soon as possible.
Save your strength, brother. You can tell me once we're safely behind Avalon's walls.
There's no time. You may have to bring this news back on your own.
Don't be ridiculous. We'll take you to see Brother Crosby at once. Spirits, you're burning up.
I'm fine, little brother. I'm just a little dizzy.
Your wounds are infected. Eat this, brother. The monks say it will help.
Yes. Mother, spirits, that's disgusting. And I feel not a bit better either. What is that?
Medicine and you will feel better, I promise. For now, let's leave this place, alright?
With no time to argue. I will come if I can. Now, pay attention. In case I do not survive, you must relay this message. Except for a few men, our entire force was ambushed and destroyed. I survived only because while riding rear flank, I went to investigate what I thought to be a group of riders separating from our company. When the attack came minutes later, I was cut off from the company.
Who else survived then? Where are they?
General Ovoron has betrayed us, little brother. He has betrayed Avalon and all the people of the Seven Kingdoms. It was Ovoron and his lieutenants that I spotted riding away from the company. They were distancing themselves from the coming ambush. They knew what was coming and didn't want to risk being caught in the slaughter.
No, Corvus, what you're saying?
With the cries of battle echoing over the landscape, I found Ovoron and his lieutenants meeting with Mithras himself. One of Avalon's High Council and the leader of the Sha'ahoul were chatting pleasantly before my eyes, for spirit's sake, like they were merely resting after a quiet afternoon's ride. They acted as if hundreds were not spitting out their last breaths but 10 minutes away. Sweet spirits, how could they pretend to not hear the screams of hundreds, little brother, hundreds, all my friends. Of all there that day, I alone survived.
Corvus, I'm sorry.
The last thing I saw was Ovoron handing Mithras a satchel. I took no imagination to guess its contents when I realized what was happening. I immediately turned and headed towards Avalon at full gallop. I was spotted, of course. The Sha'ahoul were all over the area. Somehow I made it back to the village before my horse was cut out from under me. I raced through the buildings trying to get to the gate, but was cut off. I ducked around the corner and found the hole where my feet expected through. It was a bad fall, but it likely saved my life.
And the ogre? What of the ogre?
I directed myself over here and stayed silent as I could. I've been fading in and out of consciousness. I don't know where the ogre came from or when. but it's been shouting and bashing at something for hours. Whatever it was doing, I don't believe it ever bothered looking around the corner. Or, if it did, fancied me its prisoner, or a future meal.
There was a boulder trapping it in here, put there by the Sha'ahoul. Its confinement drove it into a frenzy, it seems. When I arrived, it had succeeded in moving the boulder enough for me to squeeze past, but not yet enough to escape itself.
That's what it was doing. I could not gather enough strength to peek around the corner.
We must make haste to Avalon, brother. In truth, Sir Roth most surely needs to hear your tale, but he needs to hear it from you. Come now, I'll help you.
While Corvus picks himself up, please enjoy this journal entry. After the fight, he discovers his brother Corvus alive but in critical condition, bearing untreated wounds and scars. Initially fearing Corvus was dead, Falco is relieved when his brother manages to stand and reveal a chilling truth. General Ovoron has betrayed them. Ovoron struck a deal with the Sha'ahoul, sacrificing a third of Avalon's defenders in a deadly ambush to save himself. The final objective in Chapter 1: bring Corvus home safely. Due to his injuries, he is walking slow, but there is no timer, and since the village has been cleared, this should be easy. Alternatively, the game doesn't mind if you just run to the Citadel. He simply teleports. General Sir Roth himself greets the returning heroes. When Falco reveals that General Ovoron himself was seen meeting with Mithras and handing over critical documents, Roth is stunned. Ovoron, a trusted council member, had access to everything. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Roth orders Falco to take his wounded brother to the monks, report to Mudam, and get some rest. In the morning, Falco is to meet Roth privately in the inner keep, and no one else must know about Ovoron's treachery. Same with the journal entry, as you can see. General Sir Roth was waiting at the keep's gate when Falco returned with Corvus, showing how much he valued the rescue. However, his relief quickly faded as Falco reported everything they had learned. Roth already knew about the tunnels, but the revelation of Corvus's rescue and, more importantly, Ovoron handing a satchel to Mithras caught him off guard. Roth's reaction shifted from shock to rage upon hearing of Ovoron's betrayal. Muttering about warning King Vortigern, he left to inform the High Council. Little Falco delivers Corvus to the healing hands of Brother Crosby. His once proud form was reduced to a shadow of itself, clad in nothing but a blood-soaked tabard, torn and clinging to his gaunt frame. His skin was marked with bruises, gashes, and dried blood, evidence of the torment he had endured. Mudam, who is relieved to hear that Corvus is safely in Avalon, congratulates Falco. However, when Falco mentions Ovoron's betrayal, Mudam is shaken. He acknowledges that Roth will call on him when needed, but offers no words of gratitude, only the grim understanding that the war is far from over. He urges Falco to get some rest, knowing that the next chapter of the siege is about to unfold. That wraps up Chapter 1. The start was slow, but that was my choice. I wanted to talk to everyone, gather as much information as possible, and really take in the world building.
Game saved.
Even then, I barely scratched the surface of all the books, diaries, and journal entries scattered throughout the keep. There's a lot of optional reading, and while you can rush straight to training and the village, taking your time really enriches the experience. One thing I appreciate is how the game doesn't hold your hand. It only gives subtle hints on where to go and expects you to pay attention, which makes exploring feel organic. The story flows well and nothing feels out of place. My biggest gripe, though, is the sudden power spike by the end of the chapter. Falco was already clad in steel, skipping straight to mid-game gear. It's a bit jarring, but chapter 2 ramps up the difficulty to compensate, so it balances out in the long run. I remember getting stuck in chapter 1 as a kid because I couldn't find Corvus. The game expects you to be observant, and if you miss something, you're left wondering until it clicks. But that's also what makes it satisfying. When you finally piece things together, it feels earned. Plus, the ability to store loot in chests was a nice touch, letting you manage resources without feeling overwhelmed. Another thing I love is the journal system. It doesn't just track quests, it actively helps build the world, presenting information like a book you can revisit at any time. It's a small detail, but it adds so much to the immersion. Played any good books lately? The presentation and slowly opening up to the first 4 villages set the tone for this chapter. The hunger, the shortage of goods, the church, and the rescue of Corvus was a highlight. Chapter 1 completed. 5 to go. As for the retrospective itself, this is the longest project I've done so far. I know some parts of the village can feel a bit silent, but I wanted to show everything the game has to offer, even if it might come across as boring or monotonous at times. My goal was to capture the full experience, not just the highlights. That said, I'll be thinking carefully how I approach Chapter 2 and what to trim moving forward. Falco silently returns to his room and gets a well-deserved rest. He came as an inexperienced boy, but he is already hailed as a hero through his deeds.
Game saved.